What's up? What's up? Real MVPs, and it wouldn't be an MVP live stream if we didn't have technical difficulties and Ricky forgetting stuff. But welcome in to the live draft extravaganza. Well, not the draft. This is the mock draft. I am joined with my co-host, JD. JD, how we doing? We are now 2 days away from the NFL draft.
Man, getting excited. 2 days away. Can't wait.
You say excited. You were telling me a different note though. When we were when we were coming into this, you were saying that oh you're not excited. You're nervous heading into this Thursday.
No, yeah, you can be excited and nervous. I've seen all the things that the Bengals might do, and not really big fan of it. So I'm prepared to be hurt.
Well, let's see. In the first round, at least, let's see who made. I think it was you that made the pick for them in the first round. Yeah. So we'll see if you're happy with your own picks. I hope you're happy with your own pick. But welcome into everyone. This is our first ever. We didn't do this last year. We're doing it this year. Our live mock draft extravaganza, and this is a idea that I had. I was watching ESPN and I think it was Mel and Field Yates did one. And I was like, you know what? JD and I should do that because, our opinions are better than ESPN. We know NFL draft. You guys watch us do our mocks and talk about the draft on the draft room. But this is our brainchild. This is us, our last kind of thoughts, as I almost knock over my water that I have here. Final thoughts before the draft. Where are we thinking? Where do we think guys are going to go? I'll be honest, JD, I thought about doing another personal 3-round to go out on draft day. I'm not going to do that to myself. I am not going to do that to myself. This is the final thoughts. However we do it, however we have it go out, this is how the thoughts are going to be there. So before we get into it, housekeeping as always, Discord, the link for the MVP Discord down below. Join it today if you're not in it already. We have NFL draft chat. We have NFL chat where the entire fandom of MVP and us included, JD and I and Dave and Soapy and Jake, former alum, and Tim, all the members of MVP are in it as well, where we could talk sports and a ton of other things. It's a great community to connect to each other so that it's not just, oh, you watch us and then the comment section. No, we have this community. Join it for free if you haven't already. It's down below in the description. Also, Patreon link should be down below as well. If you want to support us and be rewarded, get some extra perks for supporting us, check out the Patreon page as well. You can also check out the sponsor of this live stream, BETUS, link down below in the description to sign up for your 125% sign up bonus. You're going to hear about them a couple of times during this live stream, so I will talk in depth about them then. And then last but not least, if you like what you see here, hit the sub button, hit the like button, and also live in the chat, let us know what you guys think live. And if you're watching this after the fact, hit up that comment section to make sure that your voice is heard. Did we make the right picks? Are your teams going to be happy? Are you going to be happy if these are the picks that your team makes? But JD, kind of to set the ground rules for this one. So we have 100 picks that you and I have went through. We are going to give every pick of the first 3 rounds. We will have trades. There are trades here that are going to be made for each of the teams. And how we made the picks is we started off with the alternate JD picked the odds. That means I get the evens. But there are spots where it's like if a team traded up and JD was like, hey, I want this team to trade up here. I was like, cool, you could have this pick. There's some other spots where I'm like, hey, I want this team to trade up. JD's like, oh, cool, I took that pick. So there'll be a couple where it's like, hey, I'm making a couple, JD's making a couple, but usually it's going to be that alternate. JD has most of the odds. I have most of the evens. But JD, it's all on you to start this off. Who are the Bears taking with the number 1 overall pick?
So the Chicago Bears are taking quarterback Caleb Williams from USC.
This is no brainer, right? This is the one where everyone expects this to be the pick for the Bears. If they didn't trade away Justin Fields, we'd have some discussion here, but they trade Justin Fields away. They're gearing up. This is why they made the trade last year with DJ Moore. They're happy that, hey, Caleb Williams is going to be a Chicago Bear. That's where the draft starts. If you ask the Chargers, the draft starts at 5. But really, JD, the draft starts at number 2. Who's coming up next? And JD, before we give the pick, we have our first trade to announce. The Vikings are moving on up to the east side. No, they're not going over to the east. They're staying in the Midwest. But they make a trade with the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are going to get a haul here. They're going to get 3 first-round picks. They're getting 2 this year, the 11th overall, the 23rd overall, and then the Vikings' first-round pick next year in exchange for the number 2 overall pick. JD, this was a trade that you had the Vikings at 11. I had the Commanders at 2. We worked this out. You said, hey, would the Commanders be open to a trade? I said, absolutely. Who are the Vikings? You're on the clock. Who are the Vikings taking with the number 2 pick now that they're trading up?
The Minnesota Vikings are selecting Jaden Daniels, quarterback from LSU.
Now, why Jaden? Sell me on Jaden Daniels, even though you don't have to sell me on Jaden Daniels, because guess what, JD? You didn't, in my opinion, as a Vikings fan, you did not make the wrong pick here. This is one of the 2 guys that I want. Why is JD the guy that they're moving up for, Daniels?
So you kind of sold me on it earlier in the draft process with the Vikings because, like you said, how they wanted AR. And even though, or AR last year, and even though I don't see the direct comparison between the 2, I think the type of quarterbacks that they are still similar enough to where I think he's a perfect fit for what Minnesota wants to do on offense. He gives you that dual threat capability, and matching that up with JJ, it's gonna make the opposing defenses are gonna have to respect Jaden Daniels' running game.
Yeah,
even though that's not his main capability, they're gonna have to expect the run game, which is gonna allow them to. It's just gonna make JJ more open because the corners are gonna have to cheat for the run game a little bit more. And I just think he's a do-it-all quarterback. He's going to make the tough throws that he's going to need to make, as well as he's a good, from everything I've heard, he's a good leader at LSU, which was good because I remember at his ASU days, there was some character concerns, which is part of the reason why he also left. And I think it's a home run pick. I think you can't go wrong.
Not the home run pick. There's one guy I like better as a Viking fan, and that's Michael Pennick. And also Devin in the comment. Guess what he's saying in live chat, JD?
What?
Skull. What? Skull. 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 I'd be happy with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, those are the 2 guys I want. Drake May, JJ McCarthy, those 2 guys can, take a walk for all I care. Those guys can take a walk. Give me Daniels, give me Penix. As long as it's one of those 2 guys, I'll be happy draft night. But JD, that brings us to numero tres. And guess what? When there's one team a calling, there's 2 teams a calling. And we have another trade, 3rd overall pick, the Patriots. This is one where the Patriots are going to move on from that 3rd overall pick. They're sending it to Denver. Denver, I know, has a stacked quarterback room of Stidham, not Sam Darnold. We have Sam Darnold. Who am I thinking of? The Jet quarterback, Zach Wilson, and then somebody else that I can't remember their name. But basically, they have a great quarterback room. I remember 2 of the 3, so it's got to be an amazing quarterback room. They're trading up for 3, giving the Patriots their first-round pick, 12th overall. Their 3rd round pick, which will be the 76th overall pick, we'll see that later in this mock, and then a 1st round pick next year in the 2025 NFL draft. And there's a reason why I have the Broncos trading up for this pick, JD, and that is because they've already seen the Vikings trade up. They know that there are other teams that have this guy on the radar. They are not missing their guy. It has been reported, it has been rumored, it has been theorized, speculatorized, if that's how you want to say it, that Sean Payton loves Drake May. They're moving up for their guy. They're getting Drake May. I don't care if I have to give up a first. I don't care if I have to give up a third. I don't care if I have to go ahead and give up a first next year. I'm getting Drake May. That is what I am doing. They're moving up for that quarterback. And also in the live chat right now, I know this was the Vikings, but Jamie Jaime, correct me if I'm saying it wrong, says, Ricky, for the love of God, don't trade up. If the Vikings, JJ gives me major Zach Wilson vibes. I agree. And that's why I don't want JJ McCarthy. I don't want him. He can't throw. Drake May can't throw. I'll be honest, Bronco fans, I don't know what here's the thing. Sean Payton might have a thing here with Drake May, because guess what? How many times did the Saints kill it deep? No, the Sean Payton, I almost said Sean McVay. The Sean Payton system was, let's have a running back who can catch the ball. That's a short throw. And let me just hit him over the middle of the field. If they're going to go medium, short throws, running back who can catch the ball, hey, Drake May's your guy. You want him to throw the long ball? He ain't got that arm strength. He's not that guy, JD. Which pulls us into the next easiest pick in the book. And this is one that I had at number 4. The Cardinals, they're staying put, JD. They're taking Marvin Harrison, going at 4 to the Cardinals. I don't know about you. This one's the slam dunk of like, hey, unless a team trades up for him, Marvin Harrison is going to be a Redbird.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like this is another one that's just chalk. By a lot of people, he's the best player in the draft. Personally, I still think Caleb Williams is player 1. But I mean, yeah, again, it's a home run pick. I'm not a big Kyler Murray guy, but you give him an elite weapon, somebody who's going to contribute right from the jump, and he has a chance to be the best receiver in the league. He's the definition of a generational player. I mean, I know we throw that word around a lot, but he has everything. He has the speed, he has the route running, he has the hands, he has the run after the catch. He's amazing at making guys miss. He's a can't miss prospect. I think amazing pick.
And Sap in the live chat is just keep singing that song. He says that to be honest, Penix is my sleeper pick at quarterback. He says especially if it's the mid first, early second. Oh, music to my ears. I love Michael Penix. Just to go on a quick aside, JD, he's my Will Levis this year. He's my Io DeSumo. He is the guy that I love most in this draft. And I love how we'll get to him later in the draft, obviously, because he's getting drafted. But he is the one I want the Vikings to take. But got Marvin Harrison, generational talent, top wide receiver. I know Roma Dunes has said, hey, I'm the top wide receiver in this class. I'm sorry, it's like 1A, 1B, if anything. That's the closest we're getting here. Marvin Harrison will be the first wide receiver taken. But JD, that brings you the true number 1 pick in most eyes, in Jim Harbaugh's eyes, in the Chargers GM's mind. If they got the number 1 pick, technically, because we've had 3 quarterbacks via trade, and then Marvin Harrison go, who are the Chargers taking at number 5?
So my internal sources are telling me that the Chargers were trying to move on from this pick at 5, but they ended up sticking and picking Joe Alt, the offensive tackle from Notre Dame.
I'm going to ask you before you get into it, because this is going to kind of go into it. Why offensive tackle and not wide receiver? Because that wide receiver room is pretty bare after losing their first wide receiver. He's now a Bear. Losing their second wide receiver to free agency. Why'd you go tackle over Roma Dunes, who could be a top wide receiver talent?
Honestly, based off of this free agency and the last few, Offensive tackles have gotten really, really expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it doesn't hurt to have two great offensive tackles.
Mm-hmm.
So adding Joe Alt, I mean, I personally like him at left tackle, but he can play right tackle, which I think they're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they want to run the ball.
Yeah.
Clearly, it's Jim Harbaugh, so
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna want to run. So
Did you say
he,
Jim Harbaugh? Is that what you called it? Jim Harbaugh?
yeah, 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 yeah. You like that? It's
Oh,
my new spin on it,
Jim Harbaugh.
but yeah, adding Joe Alt automatically makes them
Mm-hmm.
have a better ability to run the football, which is what I think they're gonna do. And as well as you need to protect Justin Herbert because he last year, I forget what exact number that they were sitting at for sacks allowed,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't good. And even though he doesn't have the weapons, he needs to be kept upright in order to get the ball out. And you don't want to see him get hurt. I think he got pretty banged up during the year, so I just
Mm-hmm.
think personally he's not my offensive tackle one, but he's a dang good one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's just another can't miss prospect. So that's why I settled with him.
And also, I will throw out, I didn't make this pick, but this is like why I could see the offensive tackle being the route they go here. Outside of the first, they've got a second round pick, a third round pick early on, too, fifth pick of the round. And then they have the fifth pick of the fourth round, the 10th pick of the fourth round via the Bears. And they also have the fifth pick of the fifth round. So it's like early, later picks. This wide receiver class, as you and I know from going through even this first three, it is deep. It gets deep. Even outside the first and second round, you could get quality guys later in the draft. Maybe they use the second round pick they have. Maybe they use the third to go after the receivers that they need. But that brings us up to the next pick, and this one will be made by yours truly. This is the G-Men. The Giants sitting here at number 6. We've seen some quarterbacks go off the board. We've seen a tackle, a wide receiver. All things I think the Giants think about. The Danny Dimes questions are there. First off, is he good enough? Second off, how's the injury going to affect him? Do we have to do basically what the Packers did and take a quarterback that looks like it's going to be hey, let me take the quarterback even though we have the guy right now? I'm saying don't rush that. You don't need to take a J.J. McCarthy or a Michael Penix here. Look later, even next year in the draft for that. Wide receiver, you've got guys that can catch the ball. Roma Dunes would be great, but I'm sitting here and I'm going, hey, if Joe Alt already went, I've got another great tackle here with Olu Fashanu. Some people like Alt better than Fashanu. I personally have Fashanu as my number 1 tackle still, and I'm going to get him at number 6. The Giants going to go offensive tackle and just protect the quarterback. I believe, JD, I've said in most of my notes, and this is an absurd stat. I will ask you, guess how many sacks the Giants offensive line gave up in total last season?
Isn't that like 70?
85.
Oh.
85 sacks. That is way too many. Way too many. No wonder Danny Dimes got hurt. He's always getting hit. So I'm going to get a guy who's going to shore up that line so Danny Dimes ain't getting hit. That brings up you with the Titans at number 7. A team that needed offensive tackle, but both the top 2 are off the board.
Yeah, if one of the top 2 offensive tackles were on the board, that's where they would have gone. But Brian Callahan's going to get he's an offensive minded guy, so he's going to get who some might think is the best receiver in the draft, not me, but they're going to get Roma Dunes, wide receiver from Washington. Now, Brian Callahan came from my Bengals, so this isn't a surprising pick. He was mainly a quarterbacks guy, but he was a big reason why the Bengals ended up getting Jamar Chase. He with him and Joe Burrow. So, I just think that this is going to be their first building block under Brian Callahan, and I mean, it's a dang good one as well. Roma Dunes grew on me as the draft process went along, kind of to a lesser degree of Marvin Harrison, but he's a great route runner, has good speed. I mean, he'll work his butt off, which has been proven during the draft process.
Just look at the combine. He's like, I'm not done with this drill. I still remember the worker like moving the bin across the field, and he's like, no, again.
Yeah, and I just think that the Titans, they need help everywhere. So you might as well start with a guy who can be a game changer right from the jump.
And one thing that Sap says in the live chat, going back to basically all three of these picks, but the Giant and the Charger ones, is he says, yeah, our championships are built in the trenches. So if I'm Jim, protect your golden goose. Same thing with the Giants. It's one in the trenches. Protect Danny Dimes if you're going that way. JD at number 8, I've got the easiest pick. Like I've had, when you picked odds, because for pulling back the curtain, I gave JD the choice. I said, do you want odds or evens? And he said, give me odds. You may have had the easiest pick in the draft at number 1. I've had the second easiest picks in this draft. One at number 4, Marvin Harrison. He's for sure gonna go there. But also number 8 might be a different player, but I am bona fide sure, if that's even a saying, that the Falcons are gonna go with edge rushing at 8, or they should go with edge rushing at 8, because this is a team. You got Kirk Cousins. Viking fan, I'm fine with it. Bye-bye, Kirk. You're a great guy. Enjoy Atlanta. Wear your chains and do your Kohl's commercials. I don't need you. But they beefed up that offense, too. They got them weapons. They got linemen. They've got Kirk Cousins now. They have overhauled that offense overnight. The defense, haven't really done anything with. And they need edge rushing. That's why, for me, some may go Jared Verse here, because he's a prototype and you can develop him into a powerful rusher. I'm going with the best product right now that I can build into my top rusher. I'm going with Dallas Turner, edge rusher out of Alabama, and that's who I'm going with. But if they go Verse, if they go Turner, I don't care. As long as this pick is an edge rusher on the edge, Falcons are going to do the right move. Hopefully they do, but it's got to be an edge rusher here at number 8. The next pick, though, number 9, JD, I got to ask you a question before you make your pick. Notice I'm not going for the sound here. The do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Not going for that, because you weren't doing what most people think the Bears are going to do. The Bears, just for you that don't know out there, the Bears have 2 picks in the first round. They have 2 picks the rest of the draft. That's it. They got 4 picks total in this draft. Before you say your selection, I just want you to say, why aren't the Bears trading back? What's your thought process here?
Now, again, if you've been watching our videos, I sound like a Bears hater. I'm just going to stand on my business with this.
Stand on my business.
They need talent, right? And I'm honestly not super high on this draft class. So my thinking was, okay, the Bears have the first pick and the 9th pick. Let's get 2 top 10 prospects here.
Yep.
So obviously had them going Caleb Williams, and I'm going to get him a guy to throw the football to. And that's going to be Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, LSU. Now, people are going to be like, JD, but they already have wide receivers. Yes, but Malik Neighbors has the ability to be number 1. Not Mike Williams. Keenan Allen? Yeah, that's who they traded for.
Yep.
Yeah,
from the Chargers.
His best days are behind him. I'm sorry. So having a Malik Neighbors, it's going to open everything up for them. They'll actually have a guy to throw the football. They'll have a guy to catch the football. And again, Bears fans can actually enjoy watching this team play this year. They may not win a lot of games, we don't know, but they'll be fun. So that was my thinking.
You mean like all the games that they were supposed to win last year that they ended up not winning? Yeah. I heard that this Bears team was going to take a leap last year, JD. Probably the only good thing on that team was DJ Moore and Cole Kmet and the defense. So what, 3 things? I'm surprised Eberflus didn't get fired.
And now you add Malik Neighbors to that, and I mean that should be a pretty good offense.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I will say, and this is because you had Malik Neighbors going there are rumblings, JD, that there is a certain team that will be looking to nab Neighbors in the draft and could trade up for him. I want to speculate this on for a second. The Bears, I think, should look into this because, like I said, you have 4 picks total in the draft. This team, even with a Neighbors here at 9, you're not a finished team. Also, that wide receiver class is stacked behind you. You can still get talent. What are your odds? 100% meaning you're super confident, 0% means it's not going to happen. That the Jaguars get a deal done with the Bears to move up for Neighbors, because according to all the rumors, Neighbors is the Jags' top guy to replace Calvin Ridley and be their guy in the draft. Do they move up from 17 to 9?
My percentage I'd probably put it at a 60% chance of happening.
Okay.
So, I mean, I could see it happening, especially if Neighbors is the guy for the Jags, and the Jags do need wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can see it. And then, like I said, I could see a world where the Bears move down, but I'm not sure I would do that.
Okay. Next pick, number 10. I forgot how many easy picks you gave me, dude. The Cardinals, easy. The Falcons, easy. The Jets, this is a cakewalk, JD. Give me Brock Bowers. Like, there is rumors for Brock that there are some teams that like him. Apparently, the Titans like him, the Bears like him, the Giants like him, the Jets like him. Everyone who's an expert is saying there's no way Brock Bowers gets past 10. That if he's here, and the way I kind of look at this of why is Brock Bowers the biggest need for the Jets? Absolutely not. But offensive tackle, their biggest need, in my opinion, it's going to be very rare that Olu or Alt fall to 10. It's going to be very rare, almost impossible. I'd give it like a 1%, maybe a 0.5% of that happening. Almost a 0% chance of that happening. So I think the Jets are going to sit here and go, hey, Brock Bowers, he's right here. We're going to take him, give Aaron Rodgers a phenomenal young tight end prospect to throw to. JD, I just want to ask you this. Is there any way a team above Brock Bowers, I know in our mock it didn't happen this way, but any way a team above the Jets goes with Brock Bowers and kind of surprises us?
No, I don't think so. I mean, no. I mean, the only other team would possibly be the Titans,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that there's really any chance that they take Brock Bowers at the the pick. Um, or sorry, seventh pick.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think his range is 10 to 15
Okay.
or 10 to 17 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see a world where he goes in the for the Jets.
That brings us to the next pick. Vikings traded up. They traded 11, which we're at right now. They traded 23 and a first next year to move up to 2. The Commanders are now on the clock at 11. Who's Washington taking and why?
So Washington is taking Tyrion Arnold, cornerback from Alabama.
Okay.
And the reasoning is they just need help in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
And they they had a good defense a couple of years ago. They had a pretty good secondary, and then they lost some pieces from that. And I think Arnold can step in. He's not going to step in right away and dominate, but I think in a team like Washington, who is going to go through some growing pains this year, it's a
Mm-hmm.
perfect fit for him to play. Probably play him at the second corner spot, and just have him develop. I think he's already a very good prospect. He's rangy, he has good hands, and he's good at jamming the wide receiver at the line of scrimmage. So he could use a bit of work though in zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing. He's more of a man man cover corner from what I saw. But yeah, I just think he can come in and he can instantly help that secondary out.
Yeah, and I mean the Commanders. This is one where, yes, you trade back, but hey, you're getting the best of a position, and you're getting another first round later and one next year, which is huge for them. But JD at number 12, Patriot fans, I don't know if you're going to like this, but now correct me if I'm wrong, JD, because this was kind of a joint decision between us. The reason why I thought, hey, Patriots might look to move back is this team is in a full rebuild. One trade back may not be enough. It's kind of like how I think personally the Bears should be. One trade back in the first isn't going to be enough. You need two, build up some draft capital. Is that kind of your thought process of like, hey, why the Patriots would trade back 3 to 12 and then trade back even further in the first?
Yeah, you exactly nailed it there. They lack talent everywhere. So by them trading back, it just gives them more bullets for the gun, quite honestly. It allows them to take shots and just add guys who can start right away, as well as more project type prospects where
Mm-hmm.
they may be good in like 2 or 3 years. So that was kind of the thought process there.
And the team moving up, JD. Fly, Eagles, fly on the way to victory. I think that's how it goes. Patriots move back. They're going to give the Eagles the 12th overall pick and their second overall pick, the 34th overall. They will receive from the Eagles the 22nd overall pick, the 50th overall pick, and the 53rd overall pick. So 2 seconds and a first. Kind of the thought process here, I'll give it up, is so if you're the Patriots, you're moving back in the first round. And you might ask yourself, well, Ricky, why would they move back with 2 straight picks? Like, yes, you're moving back in the first and the second now, but you're gaining an extra second round pick, which is pretty huge. So it's like, because of how the value played out, those 3 picks for just 12 was just a little bit too juicy. Patriots are like, hey, we'll give you our second. We'll move back in the second to gain an extra second. And hey, who knows? Maybe they can use these 2 to then catapult themselves back up if they want to, or a combination of picks to keep a second rounder. Who knows? Let's see what they do later on. But the Eagles here at 12, JD, the reason why they're trading up in my mind is this is a team that their biggest need in my mind is cornerback. And the way that I saw it is how this draft was playing out. Once you had Arnold go to the Commanders, I'm sitting here as the Eagles and I go, okay, the Colts could take a cornerback. You've got the Jaguars could take a cornerback. The Rams could take a cornerback. The Steelers could take cornerback. That's way too many teams. Now, are all those teams going to go cornerback? No. One of them might have fallen to us, but hey, I'm going to take the stab, give up both my seconds with my first to move up to this spot, and I'm going to guarantee I get one of the top 2 corners in the draft. They're going to take Quinyon Mitchell, the cornerback out of Toledo, going to Philly. And that's just the main thing. Like, hey, we need a cornerback. I got to jump above these teams so that I get the second best, because I didn't expect the first one to go to the Commanders. When you made that pick, it was kind of a shock. So I'm like, hey, okay, Philadelphia, let's move up. Let's get that second best corner to get that type of a player at the need that we have. That brings us to 13, JD, a very anticipated pick. The Raiders at 13, what are they doing?
They are selecting JJ McCarthy, the quarterback from Michigan.
Okay.
So this one again is kind of simple here. The Raiders need a quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo, I believe they cut a couple weeks ago.
Yep. He's no longer on the Raiders.
Yeah, so they needed a quarterback. Personally, not a big JJ McCarthy guy. But hopefully he can break the mold about them drafting criminals, because he seems to be a pretty big locker room guy. So Yeah, I mean, again, he's a guy who will make all the easy throws,
Mm-hmm.
which is good.
Yeah.
He's not going to impress you with his deep ball,
Mm-hmm.
but he typically always makes the smart play.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to either throwing the ball away to avoid a sack, um, avoiding interceptions, and I mean he won a national championship, which I know some teams value, and yeah, I mean he can also escape the pocket a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
uh, not super well, but he can still do it, and I just think the Raiders need to take a swing on somebody to play quarterback. They've had some pretty bad quarterbacks there, and yes, I'm including Derek Carr in that.
Ooh. You think Derek Carr's a bad quarterback?
Brother, we've gone
That's a
over this
hot
for like three.
take.
No, we've been going over this for like 4 years. I think he's super overrated, and
Why?
what has he done? He hasn't done
He's been a
anything.
very good quarterback. Just because he hasn't won a Super Bowl or
He hasn't
anything.
won anything, and he had
Yeah, that's
talent.
because the teams he's been on have been bad.
He had so the whole argument, and I said this to Kai when
Mm-hmm.
it happened, because when they traded for Devonte Adams, I was
Yeah.
gonna be like, I said, what's their this is the last bit of excuses that they can use.
Mm-hmm.
With Derek Carr defender, his whole thing is, oh, I don't have talent, I don't have talent, and he got the best receiver in the league at the time and did absolutely nothing. Had his worst season ever.
Yeah, but that coaching staff was awful. Like they set him up for failure.
Yeah, but okay, I'm gonna just say this: the Bengals had Andy Dalton,
Yeah.
not a very good quarterback. They were able to at least make it to the playoffs at a regular basis from 2011, I think, to or
Mm-hmm.
no, 2012 or 13
Does
to
the
about.
division count though? Because like when you've got the Chiefs in your division, it's 2 losses right there. And the Chargers, they're a good team. Like I'm not saying that the
But
North
the
is cupcakes, but like
but the Chargers and the Chiefs didn't become good until like 5 years ago. Well, the
okay.
Chargers even less. Chargers aren't very good.
Mm-hmm.
So, so like, really, what's the excuse? They in 2021, I believe they might have been favorited against the Bengals in the wild card game,
Mm-hmm.
and they did nothing.
Okay.
Um, it's just this isn't really a Derek Carr rant,
I,
but
I was I was just shocked.
yeah,
I was
no,
just
I've
shocked.
never been a Derek Carr guy. I think he's severely overrated.
All right. Well, going from Derek Carr's old team to his new team, the Saints are up at 14, and this is one that I will say, this is a Ricky Widmer pick. This is one that I've seen the Saints could be high on this guy, but I will say the Saints are the team every year that it's like their first round pick. They draft a guy, and we all go, "Who? Who did they take?" That could happen here, but from what I'm seeing, what I'm reading, the guy that they're probably going to zero in on if he's here is Jared Verse, edge rusher from Florida State, mainly because he's a guy that he's a developmental project, but everything that he has from the speed, the technique, the size, his body, like his body is the big thing that is like they're talking about how they call him a prototype edge rusher, JD. He's the prototype that you want. It's just can they develop him into what they want? I ain't jury's out on that one. We'll see, but hey, if Verse is their guy, they're going to go ahead and get him, especially if he's right here at 14. That leaves us with the Colts, JD. They have your guy at quarterback, former chomp chomp Florida Gator, AR. What are they doing at 15 in the draft?
The Indianapolis Colts are taking J.C. Latham, offensive tackle from Alabama. Now, again, I know going into this or last season,
Mm-hmm.
um, the reason why AR really got hurt was because he didn't know how to
Run.
protect himself, like
Yeah.
with the run. Like he tried to always get extra yards,
It's not like
but
college. You can't take those hits.
exactly. But my thinking behind this pick
Mm-hmm.
is now that he's already had a pretty serious injury as a
Mm-hmm.
rookie, you need to do everything you can to protect him. I think JC Latham is a guy who I think he'll start at guard first, and then he can kick outside to tackle in his second year. And that's kind of what I think the Colts are going to do, but he's a mauler. He's amazing in the run game. He's massive. He plays with that mean type of energy. And he's a very good pass blocker. Again, he can use a little bit of work. I found his footwork is a little slow. But again, that's something that can be developed, so I'm not too worried about it. And I think he can fit right in with the Colts.
Well, that brings us to number 16, the Seattle Seahawks. And Sap, you're really going to like this pick because it's a guy he mentioned earlier when we were talking about edge rushers with the Falcons, said in live chat, my best edge rusher is Latu. I think his technique, I like his technique personally. Well, the Seahawks here at 16, they are going to take, now I'm going to screw up his first name now that I had it in my head. Latu, or yeah, right? Laiatu Latu, I think is how you say his first name. They're taking Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA. This is a team that needs either defensive interior or edge rushing. If Latu's here, I think it's an easy pick for the Seahawks. The Seahawks are also a team that I could see maybe trading up, depending on how the board is falling, to get that edge rusher, especially with the Saints could be targeting it. The only question is, how's the board falling? And this one looked like Latu was going to fall. He did. Seahawks take him. Easy, easy money. However, they have a plethora of needs that they could go. I just think I'm going back to the old Ricky Widmer adage, JD. What are the two most important positions in football, JD?
Quarterback and pass rusher.
Quarterback and pass rusher. You get one of those in the first round, you're usually doing something right in most cases. Before we move on to the next pick, this is where I'll take my my little break to tell you guys about BETUS right now for our listeners. Click the link down below in the description. Get your 125% sign up bonus. I believe last time I checked, it was up to like $70, JD. So what's that? You're getting what's 125% of $70. Let's see. Let's quick math here on guy. That means you're getting $87.50 extra when you deposit $70. It's on the deposit bonus. So sign up, make your first deposit with BETUS. They've got great lines. I use them every day. I usually place a bet on BETUS every day. They've got great lines, great props. Bet on any team, any sport, anywhere. Use BETUS. Free sign up link down below. You get 125%. Your first deposit right there with the link up to 125%. It's a great deal that they have for all of our watchers and listeners. Go click it today. But JD, that brings us to number 17. And with number 17, now I will say this, JD, people are probably going to be mad at this trade. And it's because a player is involved. I had a player involved in my personal mock. Yes, it was AJ Brown. Yes, it was for the 3rd overall pick. And everyone in the comment section lost their minds like it could never happen. I think people just don't like to have fun anymore. However, we have a trade here. The Jaguars are trading out of the first round. They are giving their first round pick, the 17th overall pick, to the Cleveland Browns, who don't have a first round pick. Their first round pick was traded to the Texans. Then it was traded to the Vikings. And then in our mock, it was traded to the Washington Commanders. The Browns are trading back into the first round. They're going to give up Elijah Moore. Jaguars sitting here going, hey, we couldn't get the deal done to get Malik Neighbors. We need a wide receiver. We're going to go ahead and get a veteran wide receiver like Elijah Moore. Browns can replace him later on in the draft. They're also going to get a 3rd round pick from the Browns, 85th overall, and a future 6th round pick in the 2025 NFL draft. And with this pick at 17, the Browns are coming in here. One of the things they need, interior defensive line help. They're going to get that with Byron Murphy, the second, the interior defensive lineman out of Texas. And yes, JD, a part of this had to do with them burning the Bengals. The Bengals are the next pick. This would like the way my mind is set up is if the Browns want to get this prospect, they're going to have to get ahead of the Bengals to do it. Jets were the perfect, or not the Jets, the Jags were the perfect partner here. However, I will ask you this, JD, based off the live chat. We've got One Fly Migo saying, terrible trade for the Jaguars. Be honest with me, JD. If you're a Jaguar fan, are you happy with this trade, or would you just rather them take a wide receiver at 17?
I definitely wouldn't just take a wide receiver at 17. I would rather Elijah Moore, just because I think Elijah Moore is better than any of the wide receivers you would get there. But if you're on the side of thinking that the Jags need a different position, like a corner, then I can understand why you'd be upset about it. But I mean, I think I think it's a good trade, honestly. Like, I get it's draft day, so people want to see their team draft in the first round, but you got to look at it objectively. And I mean, Elijah Moore is a pretty good wide receiver, even though I hate the Browns. You got to you have to admit that. So I mean, and the Jags need wide receiver help, so you weren't able to trade up to get Malik Neighbors. So you get somebody who's already in the league, pretty good, like I said.
Yeah, honestly, the only wide receiver I could see if Jag fans don't like this trade. And like I said, I knew there was someone that wasn't going to like it. Nobody likes when players are actually traded. But really the only wide receiver you'd take here is Brian Thomas Jr. So it's like, yet again, could the Jaguars have taken a cornerback here? It's a pretty big need. Now, if you're sitting there going, well, they could have taken a cornerback here, then I could see it. One Fly Migo saying, I'll give up a first for Metcalf. He's just like Michael Pittman, underused on a bad team. If they're on a good team, they're all pro wide receivers. I mean, Metcalf, that's the thing. Like, not tradable, probably. That's the thing with that one. But hey, is Elijah Moore even on the trade block? No rumors about it, but hey, anything can happen on draft night. JD, that brings us to number 18. Next two are you, 18. Your Bengals. What are you going with now that Murphy's off the board?
Now,
because Murphy was going to be your pick.
Yeah, Murphy's my number one on my Bengals draft board. But I mean, I would still be okay with this. I'm taking Talise Fuaga, the offensive tackle from Oregon State. Now, yes, the Bengals signed Trent Brown this past offseason, so we have our right tackle of the future. But Fuaga can play. I would imagine him to try and push Cordell Volson, our left guard, for playing time this year. And then also Trent Brown is pretty injury prone, so I could see Fuaga play at right tackle to start the year as well if injuries happen. So I just think, again, it's a win-win. This is a deep offensive tackle class. I prefer Fuaga over a lot of the other tackles in this class. And again, he has super high upside. He needs some work on his footwork and his pass protection because he's a little raw there. But in the run game, he's very good as well. Again, big body, so there's no issues there. He just fits the Bengals mold for what they would want at right tackle.
And one of the things in the live chat, Eric Kwan saying that Fuaga should have won at 13. I will say, this is a drop. This is a fall for Fuaga. Most mock drafts that I've done, JD, he doesn't reach this low because there's teams that need offensive tackle. But hey, this is a great thing about the draft. Sometimes the board falls differently. Bengals get a great great offensive tackle prospect here at 18 when he could have went in the early teens could have went 11, 12, 13 in the draft. So great pick by the Bengals in my opinion. Then at 19, this one's interesting because some people are expecting them to go after edge rusher to kind of replace Aaron Donald. Some people are expecting cornerback. JD, you had them. The Rams at 19. Who they taking?
They're taking Kool-Aid McKinstry, the cornerback from Alabama. So again, the Ravens, the Rams, are they just need help everywhere on that defense.
Yeah.
I know they could have used edge, but I think they gave up way too many explosive plays last year. So going for Kool-Aid McKinstry, it might be a little bit of a reach, but I think that I've heard that the Rams do like him. I've seen it like through their beat writers and stuff.
Okay.
And I've actually seen Kool-Aid mock to them before. So I just think that it's a really good fit. He was super high on draft boards, I feel like this before last year, like maybe around this time last year. He was high on this year's draft and he kind of fell. But I think he's a do-it-all cornerback. Again, he's kind of the opposite um of Arnold. He's probably better in zone than man, which maybe that's why he kind of fell, because I know Alabama, they played a lot of man coverage, and this year he struggled with that. But he is good in zone, and if I'm correct about this, I'm pretty sure that's mainly what the Rams do. They mainly stick their corners in zone. So I just think it's a perfect fit there.
And I will say about the pass rushing thing, if they're gonna draft a pass rusher, they're gonna have to trade up. The thing is with the Rams, they do have 11 combined picks in this draft. So is it possible they trade up for a Verse? They trade up for a Latu? Who knows? But to me, if they're taking an edge rusher, they're going to have to trade up for them. That brings us to number 20, the Steelers. And I think this one is on the board. And for me, here, and I say best corner on the board, yet I make the pick of Cooper DeJean. The reason why is me personally. Usually I have Nate Wiggins going before this. And today, as I was kind of mapping everything out, getting everything ready for the show, JD, I was like, wait, I made this pick and I took Cooper DeJean above Nate Wiggins. And there was a part of me that went, really? I did that? But it's just because I've mocked the Steelers to take Cooper DeJean. And me personally, I like DeJean better. The injury is pretty much the only question. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get a guy who can help me in the return game, help me on defense. Cornerback is arguably their number one need. I think it's easy. Steelers go with the cornerback here. If Cooper DeJean, just take the best corner they like. Then we get to 21, JD. And before you make your pick, we got a comment about 21 in the live chat. Sap saying, Ricky, assuming JPJ is there at 21, Miami needs to run that ticket up to the podium. JD, you letting Sap down? You letting Sap down? Who the Dolphins taking at 21?
I will say, Sap, I really do like where your head is at. I don't think I was thinking about that when I made this pick, but the point still kind of stands. I am taking, with the Dolphins, Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle from Oklahoma. Now, why am I taking offensive tackle? I don't think he will play offensive tackle. That's why I don't think Tyler Guyton will play offensive tackle.
Do you think he's going to be playing guard?
Yes. So we kind of had the right headspace. I do think JPJ is more he's going to have an easier time transitioning because he can play center, he can play both guard positions, and he can play tackle. Or he can't play tackle, but he can play center and both guard positions. So he can have an easier time transitioning there. But I do think Guyton can and will do better at guard when he has a higher upside, in my opinion, than JPJ. So that's kind of what I'm going with there. He's on the older side, but he is very raw. But his potential is very high, in my opinion. He's a big body, powerful in the run game, and I mean he's also pretty durable, which is what I think is important for the Dolphins, because the Dolphins have had a lot of injury issues at offensive line.
And I'll say this, Sap can correct me if he's wrong. He says JPJ is the replacement of Connor Williams. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Sap, but I believe the Dolphins are Sap's team. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why it's like one of those where it's like, ooh, I love it. Like, you know who you want. I would have had a different pick. I'll just say, to me, I think the perfect pick for them is Troy Fautanu. But any offensive line, I think that you're happy if you're a Dolphin fan. Tackle, guard, like you might want interior more than tackle, but like I think any offensive help is good for Miami.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Armstead, their left tackle, I mean, he's also very injury prone. So worst case scenario, I mean, you can also just Guyton can play left tackle if he needs to on a pinch. So that's something else that you can think about.
Now we get to number 22. Pick originally, JD, belonged to the Eagles, does not belong to the Eagles anymore, as we have the Patriots here at 22 after a trade with the Eagles earlier on. Eagles moved up to, what was it, 12, I want to say, and the Patriots moved back here. I'm having them go with an offensive tackle. They're going to go with Mims out of Georgia. And the reason why here, and this is why people are saying, like, okay, why didn't you have them go quarterback? It's one of their biggest needs. This team signed Jacoby Brissett. I think that Jacoby Brissett could be a good bridge quarterback. They don't have to take one of the top guys this year. They can trade back, get some other needs. Wide receiver was one of the things so far. Thank you, JD, for I'll get to the quarterbacks after this to kind of recap for people that have come in. But they could have gone wide receiver, edge rushers. There's not like could go Chop, could go Robinson. But offensive tackle, wide receiver, I think are the bigger needs. I'm going to go with a wide receiver here because or a tackle because wide receiver I can go with later on in the draft. So far, the quarterbacks that have been taken for people who've come into the live stream later from the top, we had Bears take Caleb Williams, Vikings traded up to 2 to take Jaden Daniels, Broncos traded up to 3 to take Drake May, and then the Raiders at 13 took J.J. McCarthy. So 4 quarterbacks are off the board. Michael Penix is your leading quarterback. Could have taken Penix here and like developed him. That could have been an option, but I'm looking at it to where it's like, I don't need a quarterback this year. Jacoby Brissett's my stopgap for this year. I can focus on quarterback, get other guys. I want to say this is a good role player draft. Like if we're looking NBA, this is the good, like, let me get everything besides the quarterback, focus on that next year. Plus, if you're bad, you get the number 1 pick. Hey, guess what? Shedeur Sanders, you want to be a Patriot? You want to make that NIL money playing for one of the biggest brands in football? Like Tom Brady is your mentor. Guess what? Come on, play for the team that made Tom Brady what Tom Brady is. That's just a little side quest for next year. Then we get to number 23, Commanders making their second pick. They traded with the Vikings earlier on. They took Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. JD, you have this pick again. Who are the Commanders taking at 23?
So the Commanders at 23 are taking Troy Fautanu, the offensive lineman from Washington. So kind of like I said earlier for the Dolphins pick, kind of hit on Fautanu a little bit. He can play all the positions on the offensive line, even a little bit of center. So I just think again the Commanders need offensive line help. Fautanu is a do-it.
Fatane. That's how Pat McAfee would say it. Fatane.
Fatane. He's a do-it-all. He's a do-it-all offensive lineman. Again, I'm pretty sure he's a little small, but I mean he's good in the pass game. Has good footwork. He has good hand placement. So I mean, I just think it's a good pick for the Commanders.
Yeah, and one of the things I will say, Eric saying that why wasn't going out the quarterback discussion, why wasn't Penix at 13? I think the Raiders like McCarthy more. Most teams in the NFL, for some reason, don't like Penix. We'll get to Penix later. I'll reference that when we get to Penix later. But yeah, Commanders Nice little pick. You get cornerback, you get someone to protect, and JD and number 24. I'm following suit. This is where we're kind of seeing the run on offensive linemen as the Cowboys. Now, I will say, Newton, Murphy, if they're in this range, I know Newton's on the board. Murphy was already taken. You've got the Cowboys here. Yes, they could go D lineman. I'm not doing that. I'm going offensive tackle or interior offensive lineman. And for me, Saps guy, JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, the interior lineman from Oregon, is the pick. This Dallas Cowboy offensive line used to be one of the best units in all of football. It's the thing that Chris Collinsworth would gawk over whenever they would be on Sunday Night Football. Chris Collinsworth always needed a new pair of pants whenever he called the Cowboy game when they had that great line. They need to get back to that. I'm taking the best one on the board for me. That's JPJ out of Oregon. You move, you pick it, you move on, you pick it, you move on. And Seth's like, no, not the Cowboys. Not the Cowboys. That's what I'm assuming he's saying no about, is that JPJ will be wearing the big old star on the side of his helmet. But that brings up the Goal Pack Go, the Green Bay Packers at 25, and it just kills me that I just said Go Pack Go because we hate the Packers in Minnesota. But JD, Packers at 25, who are they taking?
They are taking Nate Wiggins, the cornerback from Clemson.
Good pick.
Yeah, they needed help in the secondary. Nate Wiggins used to be really high on draft boards, kind of fell. I think it's a simple pick. I mean, he has good size. He kind of fits that Green Bay Packers type of mold in the cornerback position. He has good speed. He's a smart cornerback. I noticed, especially with rookie cornerbacks, they tend to get really ball happy. They feel like they can intercept a ball and they miss it completely and give up a big play. I don't think Nate Wiggins is going to be like that. He's pretty smart when it comes to timing his jumps or trying to pick a ball off. So I just think he kind of fits what the Packers are going to want to do there.
Yeah, like I said, great pick because I mean, you look at the Packers in every mock I've had them go with a cornerback. It's their biggest need. And to get a guy like Nate Wiggins that low, I think honestly, Nate Wiggins would be a better pick than the Kool-Aid McKinstry pick that I usually do, because usually I got Nate going higher than this. But that brings us to the Bucs live chat kind of popping off a little bit. One Fly Migo saying Shedeur is going to go number 1. Can't wait to see what the offensive line that Barstool bought for Colorado does. I can't agree more. He will be number 1. And he says with the Cowboys, who made the pick before the Packers, they need to get Dak one more wide receiver. And that he believes the Cowboys will trade for Shedeur next year. Hometown kid. That's the one thing. Wide receiver. You and I have talked, JD. This is a super deep wide receiver class to where, like I said earlier on, we were finding guys in the 3rd round that were like, yeah, that's a good guy. Yeah, he could fit here. Oh man, I didn't like this wide receiver class is just super deep from even 1st round to 3rd round. I don't know if you disagree with me on that sense.
No, I agree. I mean, that's kind of why I know some fans are going to get upset about certain teams not, oh, why didn't we get a wide receiver in the 1st round? Because I feel like a lot of these NFL teams are going to realize, hey, we have a group of 5 wide receivers who are interchangeable. We can get them in like the 2nd round. So let's just focus on other needs, because there's a lot of classes within this draft that are really weak. Cornerback, tight end, wide receiver is a little, quarterback is a little thin as well, and even the edge. I mean, those are some of the thin groups this year, so you can kind of push wide receiver down. And you and I were talking about this before we went live, but I seen certain mocks where the Bengals go wide receiver in the 1st round, and I hate it because I think you can get a quality wide receiver in the 2nd or 3rd round. So just to put it in perspective.
Well, that brings us number 26 to me. Very easy pick. The Buccaneers are on the clock. They could go Darius Robinson out of Mizzou, but they're going to go Chop Robinson, edge rusher from Penn State. This is one where they could go cornerback, they could go edge. To me, if Nate Wiggins is on the board, that becomes a discussion. Because he's not, it basically becomes second round talent in the cornerbacks. Still can get some first round talent at the edge rusher. Your number one important need. Buccaneers take the edge rusher and move on. That brings us to the Cardinals at 27. JD, you're on the clock. Who are the Cardinals taking?
The Cardinals are taking Darius Robinson, the edge from Mizzou. Now, again, Cardinals, they kind of need everything. Mm-hmm. So here I was just going with the next best edge rusher, in my opinion. And that's Darius Robinson. I mean, Mizzou had a pretty decent year this year for their standards. And Darius Robinson was one of the leaders on that defense. And I think he's one of those guys who has a low floor, but a super high ceiling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just one of those home run type swings where if they hit it, he could be an all-pro type player. He has that kind of body for an edge rusher that you like to see.
Mm-hmm.
So they've had a few picks in this first round, so this is just a pick where they're taking a swing and hoping that it hits.
Number 28, the Bills are on the clock. This is a pick that I was very happy to make. They're going to take a guy that they are rumored to be targeting, could be trading up for on Thursday because many mocks don't have him going this low. Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver from LSU, teammate to Malik Neighbors. He goes 28 to the Bills. Rumors are that Bills are very high on Brian Thomas Jr. They're probably going to have to trade up for him when it gets to Thursday, but I saw the pick here. I said, hey, you get rid of Stephon Diggs. Gabe Davis is gone. You need a wide receiver. They went ahead. What was it? Last year was the Dalton Kincaid pick?
Yeah.
They go up and trade up for Dalton Kincaid last year when I was like, why? He was going to fall to you. They trade up for Dalton Kincaid. I think they'll do the same thing. Trade up for Brian Thomas Jr., get a wide receiver as their two best. Their number one, number two are now out of town. One via free agency, the other via a trade. But that brings JD the 29th pick. And I will be completely honest, I am so happy you picked odds because I did not want to go anywhere near this pick. The Lions have gotten in my head. I don't know what Johnson's thinking. I don't know what Dan Campbell's thinking. This is a team that you can't just look at the top three needs and go, oh, it's going to be one of those. I'm so happy that you got this nightmare and I didn't. Who are the Lions taking at 29?
You call it a nightmare. I call this my favorite pick of the draft. So I am going. Do you like that, eh?
I do. Do you
I'm
just like
going
it because of the player?
Well, no, I think the fit is also amazing.
Okay.
So I'm going Johnny Newton, defensive line from Illinois. Now,
ILL.
So yeah, he is a
Finish it,
tech.
Finish it, JD.
I don't know the song.
ILL. INI.
Okay.
INI. That's the chant. We spell Illini. It's the half the stadium goes ILL. INI. He's a fighting Illini.
I know. I'm aware. So I am. So the reason why is I love Johnny Newton. I mean, for a very long time, even if you go back to my preseason big board, he was my defensive tackle 1. Now that's Byron Murphy, but he's still defensive tackle 2. And I seen people have him fall out of mocks, but it's funny because Ricky and I
first round mocks.
Yeah, sorry, at first round mocks. And Ricky and I were
going to draft undrafted free agent.
Yes. You and I were talking about this the other day, and then it's funny because I was looking at some more mocks today and yesterday, and then now I've seen people starting to put him back in the first round. Yeah. So I don't know. He's going on a roller coaster ride, but I think this is a perfect fit because Kai in the Discord, he's a Lions fan, and him and I were talking about all year. Aiden Hutchinson needed somebody else to help pass rush the passer, and I think Johnny Newton can do that. Also, they signed DJ Reader, but DJ Reader is purely a nose tackle, and he's probably not going to start the year because of his injury. But even with DJ Reader, I think Johnny Newton is a very good complementary piece to that. And with both of those guys, with Aiden Hutchinson, the Lions have a chance to have very, very good defensive line. So I love this pick, and if they do it in real life, I mean, it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's like I said, I just don't know what Johnson and Campbell are gonna do. Like that last year, they surprised me by going with Gibbs and then going with the linebacker out of Iowa. What's his name? What's his name? Linebacker Iowa. We both liked him, but we thought the pick was too high.
I can't remember. If you said his name,
He's a white kid. Well, Iowa is a white kid. Yeah, it was Jahmyr Gibbs and what was his name? He played linebacker for Iowa. I want to say it's like Ben something, but that's wrong. Oh, what was his name? What was his name? Something. No, not Simpson. Not Samson. Was it something with an no? It was some. His first name started with a J, I think.
Jack Campbell.
Jack Campbell. That was it.
Yeah.
I knew. Towards the end, I'm like, I thought Gibbs and Campbell, both picks we liked. We just thought they were reaches. So I don't know what the Lions are gonna do. That brings up the Ravens at 30. I got them going with Keon Coleman, the wide receiver. I just think they're going to take the best wide receiver. That's just what I think. The wide receiver is a top need. This might be a lazy pick. Oh, Ravens going with wide receiver. That's the league. Everyone's got that. But to me, I like Keon Coleman. He showed how he could be a top receiver at Florida State, even though Florida State got robbed and didn't get to go to the playoffs because of X, Y, and Z. I just look at it and I go, hey, you know what? This Florida State team is good. Keon Coleman's good. He's got the size and body that I like. Go ahead and draft Keon Coleman. Be happy about it, Baltimore Ravens. Speaking of wide receivers, Falcons at 31, JD, what wide receiver are they taking?
The 49ers, they are taking Xavier Worthy, the wide receiver from Texas.
Why is he so low on draft rankings?
I think it's only because he really had 1 year of very good production. Because if I'm not mistaken, last year, I guess the year before his junior season or sophomore season, he I mean, he was good, but he was nothing really to write home about. And I feel like he had some concentration drops this year, like more than a few times. Yeah. So his hands are a little bit of the concern. So, and he's also very skinny. So I think the worry is if he gets hit, he's going to get hurt. So I think that's what people are seeing there.
Okay. And then last to round out round 1, JD. You knew it was going to happen. There's a quarterback that's been falling, and what does Ricky love? Ricky loves trading up for a quarterback to get that 50-year option on him. The trade that we got, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to get a second rounder, 40th overall, and a third rounder, comp third rounder, 100th overall from the Washington Commanders. Commanders are going to move up from 40 basically to 32. And this is a team that traded back. They could have taken quarterback early. They did not. Well, guess what? They are trading up. They are taking their quarterback. Eric Kwan can be happy. Sapp can be happy. Myself can be happy. Michael Penix is a first-round pick. Michael Penix is the quarterback for the Commanders. This is one where I feel like it was a little sneaky, where it's like, hey, he's fallen. Wasn't even going to look for cornerback for the Commanders, but with him at 32, as soon as he got to 32, JD, I immediately, when we were going over this, I was like, hey, you know what? What teams still need a quarterback? Because someone's going to trade up for him, I feel like. Like, Will Levis aside, and my love for Will Levis being the same for my love for Michael Penix, I will say, is better than what Will Levis was his last year coming out of college, to where if he's there at 32, someone's going to trade up for him. Commanders had yet to take a quarterback. They'd gladly give up the 100th overall pick and their second to move up into the last pick of night 1. But that does it for night one. We'll recap the whole thing at the end. We're going to move right into round two, probably at a quicker pace because round two, round three, guys are not as hyped up and talked about, but we'll still give some conversation. JD, first time we're saying their name on the podcast. They get to make a pick. Carolina Panthers, first pick of the second round. Who are they going with?
They're going with Ladd McConkey, the wide receiver from Georgia. So with Ladd McConkey, I mean, the Panthers needed a wide receiver again. They just really need stuff on offense. Mm-hmm. And I'm not super high on him, but again, this is another team that has had a top 30 visit with McConkey, which makes me think that they're pretty interested in him.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, again, I think he's more of a slot guy. So, but again, they need it. So he has good catching ability, good speed. I mean, again, I don't know how extensive his route tree is since he really only has ever been a slot wide receiver. But yeah, I mean, he played in a winning program, and hopefully he can bring some winning ways to the Panthers.
Yeah, and that brings up the second pick of the second round, 34 overall. Eagles on the clock after their trade with the Patriots earlier. I just got him going O-line. Guy that can play tackle, can play interior. Their higher need is at tackle, but they also need some interior line help also. So I got the Eagles going with Graham Barton out of Duke. Just a guy that, hey, we're going to draft him. We'll figure out where we're going to put him. Guard, tackle, inside, outside, doesn't matter. We're going to take him. A need gets secured, and we get a good solid pick there with the Eagles, who traded up for Quinyon Mitchell, in the first round of the draft. That brings us to 35 overall. The Cardinals, they've taken Marvin Harrison Jr. They've then taken edge rusher in Robinson. JD, you are on the clock with the Cardinals, 35th overall pick.
They're taking TJ Tampa, the cornerback from Iowa State. This is just, again,
this was one when you made it, I was like, who? Like, this is one where it's like TJ Tampa. I did not expect to see his name this early in our mock.
Yeah, I'm just going to pull back the curtain quickly. So basically, about 2 months ago, my buddy, he's in the Discord, he's a Texans fan. He sent me a list of guys. What do I think about these guys for the Texans in the second round? And I had no idea who TJ Tampa was. And he told me to look at tape because he liked him. He thought he was good. And so I did. And I'm glad I did because he's a little slower. Like, not slow, but he's not as fast as I like my cornerbacks.
Yeah.
But everything else, he's very good at reading the ball. He's good at reading the quarterback's eyes. Again, strong. He's not afraid to tackle. And he makes plays on the football. So he can be a game changer for the Cardinals in that defense, because I think he'll be able to create turnovers, which is something that they lacked this year. So I just think he's a very good pick. Maybe a little bit higher than where he'll go, but if they do go him at the 35th pick, I wouldn't be upset. If they do go him. Yeah, English is hard.
But that brings us up. Next pick, 36th overall. JD, guess what?
What?
I love that I got that on the soundboard for the Discord. So guess what? If you're in the voice channels for the Discord hanging out, you can now use that soundboard in the Discord. We got another trade. This one sees the Patriots trading up. So Patriots traded back, got 2 second-round picks, one of those being the 50th overall pick that they are sending to Washington, along with a 5th-round pick, 137th overall. They're moving up basically like they're attaching a 5th to the 50. They're moving up from 50 to 36. And the guy they're moving up for is, I kind of hinted at this earlier on, JD, or earlier in the live show, where I'm like, oh, you know what? We went with offensive tackle. I know wide receivers are need, but hey, maybe they can package. They took one of those picks. They're moving on up. And they're going to take, I always screw up his first name. I think it's Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver out of Texas. It's not. I know it's Ada something. I think it's Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver out of Texas. Seeing him fall, he's a guy that can go in the first round. Patriots are seeing him fall. Chargers next up at 30. Like you have the Chargers at 37. You've got other teams like the Titans could double up on wide receiver. Panthers could double up on receiver. Chiefs need receiver. There were a lot of teams that needed receiver. The Bengals could have gone receiver. The Jags, even though they took Mitch or traded for Elijah Moore, could have went there. The Colts need wide receiver. They're like, you know what? There's a lot of teams here with wide receiver needs. The guy we want might not fall to us. Let's go ahead and get him. They trade up for Mitchell at 36. 37, JD. That means the Chargers are on the clock. They took offensive tackle and Joe Alt in the first.
Yeah, so the Chargers are taking Chris Jenkins, the defensive tackle from Michigan. Now, the Chargers, I feel bad. Actually, no, I don't feel bad. I don't like Chargers fans.
This is another one I thought was kind of a reach, but not in the bad sense. I thought hearing his name earlier than I thought we would from you in the draft.
Yeah, so kind of like what I hinted at earlier is defensive tackle is one of those position groups where after the first two, there's a pretty big drop off. So my thinking here is that the Chargers need pass rush help, and I think Jenkins he's probably more of a run stopper, but he can offer a little bit on the pass rush side. And again, the Chargers need help. I think they were a pretty bad run stopping team last year. So I think that adding Jenkins can add to that. And I think it's just one of those where the defensive tackles are going to probably go pretty early in the second round. So this was just me thinking that the Chargers might be the first domino fall here.
It's interesting too, because like in my mind, I'm thinking Chargers, you need that wide receiver. But yet again, like we said, what is this wide receiver class, JD?
Very deep.
It's very deep. Don't need to take it too early. The Titans at 38. I was on the clock. I got a name that I love to say, and I say that sarcastically because already names and me don't get along. But they had taken wide receiver earlier with Roma Dunes. You were the one that made that pick in the first. I got him going with tackle. This is one where you got a guy, Kingsley Suamataia. I think that's how you say it. I think that was perfect. Suamataia is how you say that one. Out of BYU. Go ahead getting a tackle who's kind of a little bit of a prospect, but guess what? The Titans are not going to be a great team. Will Levis is developing. You have Tannehill who's out of time. You got basically Derrick Henry is out of time. Guess what? You are a rebuilding, developing team. Let me take a guy in Suamataia, who is going to be that developing tackle for you on the outside, hopefully being one of the anchors to your team moving forward. Then at 39, JD, the Panthers on the clock via the Giants. Who are the Panthers going with? Second pick early in the second. They took, not too long ago, Ladd McConkey out of Georgia, wide receiver.
Yep. They're taking Ennis Rakestraw Jr., the cornerback.
Could be a first-round talent going here in the second.
Yep. Yeah, and he was a late riser. I feel like he didn't start to rise until around the combine.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's kind of why for me personally, like I don't know too much about him, like all disclosure. So maybe I'm not seeing what other people are. But I feel like him going here in the early second round is a good spot for him. And the Panthers, they like I've been saying a lot, they need talent. So adding somebody in that secondary, he has pretty good size, good weight. He's again probably better at man coverage from what I've seen. So yeah, I think it's a good pick for them.
Question for you, just kind of on the spot. Didn't happen here in the mock, but put yourself in the shoes of a Panthers fan. I know it's a scary place for you because like the Bengals are good and like Super Bowl caliber and the Panthers aren't. So you're like, no, I'm back in the past. If you were a Panther fan, JD, would you rather them sit here and take the 2 picks like we had, or would you want to see them package their second round picks to move up to get a first round guy?
I would probably want them to get a first round guy,
Okay.
but it depends where they move up because
And
personally,
what
I
would you
feel
target? Wide receiver? Would you target the what position? The cornerback like you did? Is there a different position
yes.
if you're moving
So
up?
so personally, I don't think they'd be able to move into the top 10.
Yeah. I'm thinking like
So
between 21 and 32. Maybe even
yeah,
25, 32.
so I would probably say I'd move up to let's just say 20. Let's just say 19 hypothetically, okay?
Okay.
So I would have them probably take Kool-Aid or Nate Wiggins,
Mm-hmm.
either of the two, because again, I think those guys have both potential to be a lockdown corner,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean they already have, they still have J.C. Horn, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so
I'll
you
fact
pair
check
up
it.
pair up one of those guys with J.C. Horn, and then you have two very very good corners, and at least that could be a bright spot of your team.
I'm looking
But
at it. J.C. Horn still on the Panthers.
Yeah, but again, you got to keep in mind, like if you would have asked me for like last
Mm-hmm.
year's draft,
Yeah.
I would have said I probably would rather keep my 2 early seconds,
Mm-hmm.
but that's because I think that draft was a lot deeper
Yeah.
compared to this year's draft.
Just a thought I had as we made both picks for the Panthers. At 40, we got the Chiefs. This is the pick that the Commanders got via the Bears that the Commanders sent to the Chiefs to move up to take Penix at 32. Also, a comment about Penix that made me laugh from Sap. He says, let me get this heart out of the way. Let me click live chat again to get it up there. Says Penix is Levis if Levis had touch on his passes. When
Also,
Will Levis is the guy, and when Will Levis is a quality starting quarterback, guess what? I got the receipts, JD. I got all the receipts. They're sitting here. You hear that paper? That's all the receipts that I got. It's definitely not garbage at all in this room. But the Chiefs here at 40, they're going to take off at like I'm sitting here and I'm thinking could go wide receiver, could go offensive tackle, could go wide receiver, and like the wide receivers you're thinking of, you've got Ricky Pearsall, you've got Xavier Legette, you've got Jalen Polk. The reason I didn't go with wide receiver is I like some of the ones later. Maybe like a McMillan could be someone they target later on. So I went offensive tackle. I'm just going to take the best one on the board for me, and that was Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle out of Arizona. It's very simple. Hey, wide receiver, do you think one of the ones we like could be later on? Offensive tackles could be having a little bit of a run here. Let me go and take the best one. Morgan will be the first pick for the Chiefs here at 40, tackle out of Arizona. JD, that brings you up with the Packers at 41. Who are they taking after they took Nate Wiggins in the first round?
so they're gonna double down on defense, and they're gonna go Michael Hall Jr., the
Okay.
defensive tackle from Ohio State. He is just a pure upside guy. He was a former 5-star prospect coming out of high school. He had high expectations at Ohio State,
He was a
and
first round pick last year, right? Before coming back, or was that way early in the process this year? I remember him being
that
in
was
first round mocks.
that was around this time last year.
That's what I was thinking. Yes. Okay.
So I think I might have had him as like my third or
Mm-hmm.
second defensive tackle on my
Yeah.
big board this year. Um, coming in to
Mm-hmm.
the season. Yeah, again, he had super high upside, but he disappointed. I feel like, I mean, if Kai's watching, he can correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he dealt with a lot of, or not a lot, but he dealt with injuries this year, and that's kind of been his MO, which is why he's fallen. But he also just hasn't lived up to the hype. He's a very, I heard somebody on The Athletic yesterday talk about him, and they said he's just like a major flash player.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll do nothing for a lot of the game, and then one play he'll just stand out like a sore thumb. He'll wreck the quarterback, and then just take over a game. And so I think with the Packers, I mean, it's worth the gamble here. Their defensive line is pretty good, so this would just, if it hits, it's just another great pass rusher to add to that arsenal. And yeah, I think it's a good pick for them.
That's what it was. It was this year. This year in my 1.0, I had Michael Hall Jr. 20th overall. So he was a top 20 pick in a mock draft way early in the year 1.0, and that was a second round prospect. So it's kind of interesting to see how these guys rise and how these guys fall as the process goes. But 42 bringing up the Houston Texans via the Vikings. I'm going to mess up this name, but basically earlier in the draft, I believe they didn't have a pick. Yeah, they didn't have a pick in the first round so far. So this is their first pick. They're going to go with Mike Sion, what is it? Sion Rastil? Cornerback out of Michigan. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Mikey S. Cornerback out of Michigan. I'm terrible with names. What can you say? Sainristil. So what? Sion Ristil, maybe that's it. Sion Ristil, cornerback out of Michigan. I'm just going with the cornerback, best one available. He's the best one on the board. Could have gone with Leicester. Could have gone with a safety, maybe like Bullard or Newman, but I'm going to go cornerback out of Michigan with the pick. JD, that brings up you. Falcons at 43. They took Dallas Turner earlier in the draft. What are they doing at 43?
They're taking Jaden Hicks, the safety from Washington State.
Okay.
Now, my thinking here is, again, you already have Jesse Bates III, and he's an all-pro type safety. Pair him up with Jaden Hicks, and you could have one of the best safety rooms or safety combos in the league. I think Jaden Hicks is actually one of the few DBs this year who will actually come in right away and dominate. He's not getting talked about enough, but at safety it's kind of easier to come into rather than corner. And Jaden Hicks, he's a heavy hitter. He doesn't really give up much over his head, and I mean, he needs to work on reading the actual play developing a little bit better. But I think, again, with some coaching, I think he'll start right away, and I think he's going to be a good pickup for them.
That brings us to the Raiders at 44. I've got this one. This one was kind of difficult for me. It's a flip-flop between two positions. Raiders went with J.J. McCarthy in the first. That means their two top needs of tackle on the offensive side, cornerback on the other. Maybe some people are thinking, Ricky, tackle. Go with that offensive tackle. I'm not, though. I'm going Kamari Leicester, the cornerback out of Georgia. This is just one where I'm saying, hey, I went with quarterback in the first round. I can get that tackle later. The need here at cornerback and the talent that's here could be a run on some safeties and cornerbacks. I'm going to go ahead, shore up that defense, get that need. I'll go with tackle later on because, I mean, they do still have Colton Miller. Really, it's about looking for someone on the opposite side. Yeah, I just flip the coin here. You could have went with tackle. I'm going corner. Maybe the right decision, maybe not, but it's the one that I made for the Raiders. Raider fans, let me know down below what you guys think, or in the live chat if you're watching live, what you guys think of that. I'll ask you, JD, just gut reaction. If you were the Raiders, would you have shored up offensive line or would you have gone cornerback?
I think I would have gone corner here, just because we kind of had a little bit of a run go on them. And again, the cornerback depth isn't that great in this class.
Anemic?
So, pardon?
I said it's anemic.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think, you get your guy here. Again, Lassiter was somebody who, coming into the year, people thought could be cornerback 1, cornerback 2. Obviously, that didn't pan out. But again, he's someone with super high upside. He's a very good athlete. And the Raiders, they need cornerbacks.
JD, that brings us to number 45. The Saints via the Broncos Your pick, who are the Saints taking after they took Jared Verse in the first?
So I would like to say, if possible, the Saints, I think I would have liked them to trade up here to try and get a better offensive tackle than who they have picking right now. But their offensive line was horrible, so I have them picking Patrick Paul, the offensive tackle from Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, their offensive line was god awful this year. Sure, they had injuries, but it was horrendous. So Patrick Paul is in my opinion, a pure pass blocker.
Yeah.
He doesn't offer much in the run game, but I mean, if I'm a Saints fan, that's still music to my ears because you had like nobody who could pass block.
Yeah.
So I think he's a start. You normally don't see offensive tackles in the second round come in and start, but I think to the demise of the Saints offensive line, I think Patrick Paul is one of the few who can come in and start right away. So I think it's I mean, if like I think it's pretty obvious that they're gonna have to go offensive tackle at that pick.
Yeah, I mean it's one where it's like the Saints, they will have to do it sooner rather than later. Why not do it in the second? The next pick, JD, I'm gonna say the pick. It was mine. But I was influenced on this pick because really it was your pick and you were really hoping that he would go to the Colts, and there's a reason. And I don't want to like misspeak for you. So I'm going to make the pick for the Colts here at 46, but I'm going to let you elaborate on it. Colts take Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver, Florida.
Yeah. So with this pick, again, pulling back the curtain, Ricky and I were talking. I actually wanted the Colts to trade up to ensure they get Pearsall because this past weekend I was again just doing some research, and apparently AR has been really pushing for the Colts to draft Ricky Pearsall because I didn't know this, but him and Ricky actually were pretty close. I guess 2 seasons ago now at Florida. And I don't know if they were roommates, but they're really good friends, and honestly it showed on the football field. AR obviously didn't have a great year that year, but Ricky and him had a very, very good connection at Florida when it came to on the field. And then I saw that the Colts have had a top 30 visit with Ricky Pearsall, and I just think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I've raved about him all year. He has very, very good hands. All you have to do is type in Ricky Pearsall catch against Charlotte, and you'll see what I mean. It was probably the catch of the year. And again, he's probably more of a slot, but unlike a lot of the slot receivers in this draft, he can definitely play the outside. He has a very good route tree, and he has underrated speed. I don't remember what his 40 time was, but he's always somebody that I found ran faster than the numbers actually showed. So if you look at his tape, I found his route running was very crisp and he was fast on the field.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the Colts need wide receiver, so I would love this fit here.
Number 47, Giants via the Seahawks. This is one that you made the pick for, JD. Who are the Giants going with? They went with offensive tackle with Ola Fashanu earlier in the first.
So they're going with Javon Bullard, the safety from Georgia. Again, my thinking here was they lost Xavier McKinney, the safety this year in free agency. So having them go Bullard here, I'm pretty sure they were both more like strong safeties. So that's a good thing because Bullard is somebody who can step in and replace McKinney there. And I mean, yeah, it's just again at one time he was probably wide receiver 1 or 2 on most people's boards. Safety 1 or 2 on most people's boards. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a good fit here with the Giants.
Number 40, what is this? 8, the Jaguars. This is a pick yet again. looking back, day later, we made these picks beforehand, obviously wanted them in order so we could know and it's not like a big mess here. I was thinking, okay, they need a cornerback. There's not really one in this range. I'm just going to go with defensive back. I'm going Tyler Nubin, safety out of Minnesota. Some Minnesota fans might, sorry, not Minnesota fans, Jacksonville fans might say, well, Ricky, it's a bit of a reach. Safety's not one of our top needs. I'm just looking at it towards like, hey, it's a need for this team. It might not be the highest. It's kind of like how the Lions drafting Jack Campbell last year, where it's like, oh, linebacker's not one of our top needs, but like, yeah, he's a good player. And that's what this is. The safety class is not as beefed as like the wide receiver class. So I'm going to go ahead, Bullard's taken, Hicks is taken. I'm not going to miss out on one of those top safeties. I'm going to take one and move on. And was wishing that a cornerback would be here. Maybe trading back could have been an option, but no one made the call up. So Nubin is the pick for the Jaguars at 48. JD, that brings you to your Bengals at 49. Who are they taking with the 49th overall pick?
They're taking Trevonde Sweat, the defensive tackle from Texas.
So they don't get their tackle in the first round. They take Fuaga, but they get their defensive tackle here in the second.
Yeah. Again, this is a pretty big reach, especially after Sweat's DUI this past month, because he's definitely going to fall. But again, the thinking here is the defensive tackle class is so thin. Sweat is definitely a project and more of a run stopper, but you lost DJ Reader, and I just don't think you want to risk not getting a defensive tackle, or at least I don't want to say role player, but like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a
depth?
Second stringer.
Depth?
Yeah, depth. Yeah, like a depth piece here at tackle. So yeah, I just think you take a swing and hope that it works out. And Sweat, again, maybe before the DUI, he was a second round prospect, but with the DUI, he's probably fallen a little bit. But you don't want to risk missing out on one of them.
Number 50, the Commanders. Next two picks will be my picks. Commanders at 50. They get this pick because the Eagles sent it to the Patriots and the Patriots sent it to Commanders to move up. Commanders, one of the needs on their team is edge rusher, so I'm going to take the best. This is one between, you've got Chris Braswell and Marshawn Nealon are the top two. To me, Braswell's a guy that's going to do better on a team that already has an established core. The Commanders do not. They traded all those guys away, like Sweat, like Chase Young. So basically, I'm sitting here and I'm going Marshawn Nealon, edge rusher out of Western Michigan, to try to recoup some of those losses that I traded away to other teams. Like, Young is with the New Orleans Saints. You got Montez Sweat with the Chicago Bears. So Commanders go at edge rusher. And then because of that, the Lions are going to be on the phone, JD. We get a trade up here by the Lions. They're going to be trading up for the 51st overall pick in the second round. They're going to give the Steelers the 61st overall pick and the 164th. So a second and a fifth to move up here in the second round. Lions need edge rushing help. They went with their interior defensive line in the first. They're going to go with some edge rushing help. They already have the edge rushers. So this is kind of like hey, let's add some more talent to that room. Chris Braswell, edge rusher out of Alabama. They already have Hutchinson. They have their main edge rusher. He can just be a guy to kind of facilitate here and there, be the rotational piece in that defensive line. So they go interior first round. They trade up to get Braswell, the edge rusher out of Alabama, in the second. And then that brings you, the next two picks are yours. First up at 52, the Rams.
Yeah, so the Rams are going Cooper Beebe, the guard from Kansas State. And they need offense. They need specifically interior offensive line help, and Cooper Beebe is probably the best one available. So I just thought it was a pretty easy pick there.
And then the Patriots, they get this pick from the Eagles at 53, a part of that trade where the Eagles traded up to 12 for, I want to say that was Mitchell. Patriots at 53. Who are they going with?
They're going Bo Nix.
They get their quarterback.
Yeah. So I thought this was a good spot for them because with Jacoby Brissett, Bo Nix can sit a year and kind of learn from him. And I mean, this is also a spot where it doesn't kill the Patriots if Bo Nix doesn't work out. Then I mean, he just becomes a backup. I just thought it was a no risk pick here.
Yeah, and the one thing is, will Bo Nix probably go before 53? Most likely.
Yeah.
But like, this is one where I totally agree. The Patriots taking him at 53. It's no risk here. Like, you didn't waste a pick on one of the top quarterbacks where if they fail, it's a bigger problem. Hey, we're going to get a need. And this is with extra draft capital. Like, they took the extra draft capital from the Eagles, traded up for a wide receiver that they desperately need, and then took a quarterback here at a spot where, hey, if he busts out, you're not going to be mad at a 53rd overall pick busting out. Then we get the Browns making their second pick. They went Byron Murphy, the second in the first round. They're going to go with another kind of need. They're going to go linebacker. This guy's been falling. Kind of a BPA pick here. Going to go Peyton Wilson, the linebacker out of NC State. This is one where it's like, hey, we just need to beef up that defense. We need to get that unit stronger. This is one where we do need a linebacker, but it's also BPA. Let's go ahead, take Wilson from NC State, move on forward. Then JD at 55. Sap, if you're there, ring, ring, ring. The Dolphins are on the clock. Who are they taking? You let Sap down once, JD. Are you going to let him down again?
So I have the Dolphins taking Jatavion Sanders, the tight end from Texas.
Okay.
Now, this is just something where I think the Dolphins had a very good offense last year, and adding another weapon to that was only going to help. And Sanders is somebody where I was high on at the beginning of the year. He didn't really improve that for me, but I know a lot of people are very low on him, and I don't really understand why. I think, sure, he's not the fastest, but I feel like he's very good at jump balls. He's going to be a good red zone threat. Sure, he needs to expand his route tree, but again, that's doable at the next level. And yeah, I mean, he's a do-it-all. He's not the greatest run blocker, but he can still block a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I think he's, again, just another high upside pick.
That brings us to 56, the Dallas Cowboys. And this is one earlier on. I'm going to pull back a comment from the live chat. We had One Fly Amigo say Cowboys need to get Dak one more wide receiver to go with Dak in his last year. That's what I got the Cowboys doing here. They're going to take Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina. Not my favorite wide receiver in the draft. He's not someone that I'm oozing over like a Roma Dunes or anything, but solid wide receiver here. You get him in the second. I think this is the plan. Get a second round talent wide receiver to go with Dak Prescott and give him some help in the wide receiver room. So for me, easy pick for the Cowboys. JD, that brings you with the Buccaneers. They took edge rusher in the first. What are they going here at 57th overall?
They are taking Blake Corum, the running back from Michigan.
First running back off the board, by the way.
Yeah, and I think if Blake Corum didn't get hurt, he would have gone a lot earlier if he didn't have like ACL problems. So I think he could have gone in the off pure talent. He probably was an early second round pick, or a late first. But yeah, I thought that this was a good spot for him. I was gonna say the Buckaroos. I was gonna say the Buckaroos, but the Bucks.
Such a Canadian thing, the Buckaroos.
Yeah, they need running back help, and I think Blake Corum is a good bet to draft there.
So up next at 58, we have the Packers. They took cornerback in the first round. So far in the second, they've taken defensive tackle. I had this pick for the Packers. For the first time, they are going to go with an interior offensive lineman is probably going to be playing center at the next level. I'm going to go Zach Frazier, the center out of West Virginia. This is one where I was just thinking, hey, you went defense. That's great. We need some offense. We need some offensive interior help. Center's one where they're kind of that's the one they're the kind of lowest on with depth. Let me add Frazier to that center room, well, offensive line room, but that center position and move on forward. That brings us to 59, the Houston Texans. They have so far in this draft made 1 second-round pick. It was a cornerback out of Michigan. They've gone defense. JD, what are they doing at number 59?
They're taking Jalen Polk, the wide receiver from Washington.
I like this pick. I like Polk.
Yeah.
I like Polk a
Yeah,
lot.
I think he's a very high floor player. So at worst case, he's just a depth wide receiver, but I think he'll be a starter in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the Texans, they need more wide receiver help. So
you know what stinks to me? I like McMillan from Washington more than I like Polk.
I mean, yeah, like I think Polk is more of a slot receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, that definitely plays into it.
Yeah, I just, for some reason, I like that's why it's like for some of these teams, I thought like, oh, I could go Polk, but it's like, I like McMillan later on. Like Polk, I think it's because, like you said, he's got a high floor, but not a high ceiling. Where McMillan, I think, has a higher ceiling than Polk does.
Yeah.
Then the next 3 picks, JD, were all by me. We have some where it's like we had a trade. That's what did that. So the Bills at 60 are going to go with Braden Fisk, defensive lineman out of FSU. We went wide receiver early. Now we got to go with defense to get that top need. Then at 51, we have the Chargers. And this is going to be another trade as they're going to trade up with the Steelers. Steelers now moving back twice. Chargers are going to get the 61st overall pick, a second-round pick, and a fourth-round pick, which is 119. They're giving to the Steelers a third-round pick, 69th overall. Nice. A fourth-round pick, 111th overall, and a seventh-round pick, the 225th overall pick. The reason why the Chargers are moving up, they have yet to go this position. They need this position. They like this position. They also like the player that they're taking because of who? Because who's their head coach? What kind of ball they playing, JD?
Hardball.
They're playing hardball. Chargers are going to trade up, take Roman Wilson, wide receiver out of Michigan. Is this one that is a good trade up, good pick, or bad trade up, bad pick? Would you like Wilson being reunited with Harbaugh in LA?
Yeah, no, I think it would be a good situation for him. I mean, 2 familiar guys, and it also gets Justin Herbert more weapons, which is never a bad thing.
Then we got the Ravens at 62, taking a guy, JD, I personally like, Braylon Trice, the edge rusher out of Washington. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes because this is a guy that, I don't know about you, I could see this guy being a pick where a team goes, hey, I know edge rusher isn't a need, but for the value here, we might go ahead and take him. Where a team might take him, even though edge rusher isn't a top need for them.
Yeah, I had him pretty high on my preseason rankings this year, and again, he's just another like upside type guy. If he hits, he can be like a 10+ sack guy. But I feel like he also has a pretty high floor because he's a good run defender. So at the worst case, you're getting a good run defender and not much pass rush production. But yeah, I definitely think I could see teams taking him for like BPA or based off his potential.
I'm also going to say this, a little bit of production note while we're doing this live. Hearing a little rattling from your mic, so I would just position that a little bit like we used to. Getting a little bit far from your face. JD's like looking at me like, Ricky, I hate when you give me production notes. I hate when you give me production notes.
Is that better?
That is a lot better. I'm gonna have to turn you down. I'm gonna have to turn you down now, which is fine. I'd rather turn you down than turn you up. Actually, talk again.
Hello.
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Okay.
49ers at 63, JD. This is your pick. Who they taking?
The 49ers are taking Andrew Phillips, the cornerback from Kentucky. This was more just BPA. But again, this could be just like another depth piece to start the year because injuries always happen, and he's pretty raw. So the Niners are gonna have to develop him here.
Mm-hmm.
But if they develop him right, then he's gonna be a good starter in the league.
And Phillips was one that, I mean, earlier on I was thinking of like, should I take him for some? Like, I think it was it wasn't the Packers because you took corner earlier. Maybe it was the Cowboys, one of the teams, maybe the Browns. There was a team where I'm like, okay, should I take corner? And he was one of the ones on the mind. But the next pick, I forgot to get our next graphic up because JD, guess what's a coming?
I don't know. Surprise me.
Surprise me, Ricky. It's the second round. Forgot to get it up because our next pick at 64 overall, the Packers are going to be moving up. They are trading up to 64th in the second round. They're going to trade a third, which is 88th, a fourth, 126th, and a future third round pick next year to move up to the 64th overall pick here in the second. And they are going to take Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker, Texas A&M. This is a guy criminally low for him here at 64, but you know what? When some guys fall, teams trade up for them. Packers, this is a position they need. A lot of mocks have him going to them in the second earlier on. Got him trading up for him here at 64. And then at 65, before we get into your Panther pick, JD, just want to say yet again, this live stream brought to you by BETUS. Check out the link down below to get your 125% sign up bonus. I want to say it's up to $70, so that's $87 that you could be getting a total of $87 on top of the 70 you deposit. Click that link down below. They have great odds, great sports to bet on. If you're a bettor like myself, BETUS is the way to go. Use our sign up link to get that deposit bonus. But that brings us to the Panthers at 65, JD. Who they taking?
They're taking Jonathan Brooks, the running back from Texas. So this is probably my running back one on the in this year's draft. And you know, again, Blake Corum, I feel like he could go ahead of him because the national championship run, the explosiveness that comes from him, but Jonathan Brooks, he's a hard runner. He's a hard guy to bring down, and the Panthers need talent. So take a swing on somebody who a lot of people have as RB1 in the class.
Yeah, and that's one where, I mean, the running backs to me overall are going to be interesting to where they go because, correct me if I'm wrong, JD, or if you feel the same, but I feel like this running back class is not as explosive. And what I mean by explosive is there's not a lot of hype around this running back class that we usually have.
No, it's dog crap.
You're going to say dog? Oh, this is dog water.
Yeah. Yeah, it's horrible. Like this is like the worst running back class I think I've ever seen. It's not good.
The top four aren't bad guys. They're just not like they're not Derrick Henry. They're not what was it? The they're not like the Trent Richardsons, the Mark Ingrams that we've seen from the past. The Melvin Gordons. Like they're not those guys. They're not Ezekiel Elliott.
Well, not even close to that. Even last year you had good running backs going in like the 5th round.
Yeah. Is that just because of the running backs and how it is? Like you only get so many good years out of a running back?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to like the recruiting cycles and stuff, right? Like some years you have like 10 or like maybe like 4 5-star running backs and then a bunch of 4 stars, and then some years you might only have one 5-star running back and and a couple 4-stars, and you know. So I just think it just so happened that this year's draft class wasn't a very good recruiting class or running back recruiting class.
Well, speaking of running backs, the Cardinals at 60, what is it, 66? James Conner could be gone at the end of the year. They could trade him during the year. They need a replacement for him. If he is, I'm getting that guy here at 66, Trey Benson from Florida State. That's all it is. It's like I need the Conner replacement. Benson's a guy. As long as I get one of the top 4 backs, this could be where they start to take the run on them. I'm going to get Trey Benson, who kind of fits a similar mold to Conner in the backfield. Then we got the Commanders at 67. JD, who are they taking?
They're taking Jalen McMillan, the wide receiver from Washington.
I love this pick. I love him. Yeah. Like, it's just a great pick.
It's very good value here, and I think he's gonna fit in really well, honestly. I think he'll fit in well wherever he goes, but he can just add to that Washington pass attack, and he could produce from year one. I think he could be even a dark horse to be offensive rookie of the year.
Wow. Well, I say wow, but I could see it.
But yeah, because think about it, because I think if he goes to Washington, he could be their main target and get a lot of production from that.
Even over, don't they still have Scary Terry over there?
Yeah, but he's also injured all the time.
Good point. Their wide receivers are very injury prone. 68. Patriots are up next. I just got him going edge rusher. Just take the top one. For me, it's Isaac out of Penn State. Kind of falling. Cool, we'll take him. Edge rusher, we need it. One of the more important positions. Then we've got the Steelers finally making a pick after their 2 trades with the Lions and the Chargers at 69. Nice. Who do the Steelers take? Is that a nice pick, JD?
I think so. Like if they made this pick, I wouldn't like it in real life because I'm a Bengals fan.
Yeah.
But they're taking Tez Walker,
okay,
the wide receiver from the University of North Carolina.
And I mean, this is one where it's like Tez. Yet again, when we get to these wide receivers at this point, what do you like? Who do you like? It's not necessarily board. It's more about personal board.
He's just a deep ball threat, right? Like he's very good at high pointing the ball, and I just think
maybe he won't complain.
A George Pickens.
Maybe he won't complain like half the Steeler wide receivers, you know?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I doubt it because I guess that's part of their culture. But
will their quarterback throw him the ball because both of the ones they got run the ball?
Yeah, Wilson and Fields, thing, right? So I mean, he might only have like 100 receiving yards this year because.
And Justin Fields might go tight end. I like Freiermuth more.
Yeah, exactly. Pick him up in fantasy.
I joke, I kid. JD at 70, you got a big pick here. Giants making a really big pick. What are they doing?
The Giants are taking.
He's got to sit up for this one.
Yeah. They're taking Spencer Rattler, the quarterback from South Carolina. Get out of town, Danny Dimes. There's a new sheriff in town.
Funny thing, and I told you this already, but I'm going to say it because I don't know if some of our listeners didn't hear it. In an interview this week, Caleb Williams said the reason why he was so mad at Oklahoma and why he transferred was because he believed he should have started over Spencer Rattler and thought he was the better quarterback in spring.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say I blame him.
Does that mean, like, to me, Spencer Rattler has been the quarterback, so much hype, didn't live up to any of it. Goes, plays Beamer ball, didn't even live up to the hype in South Carolina. Speak good things. Why should Giant fans be happy if Spencer Rattler is a New York Giant?
He's still young. And again, you got to think about how much potential he had coming out of high school, right? I think he might have been the first, the number 1 wide receiver in his recruiting class. I think so. Again, not that means everything, but it shows how much hype there was there. And him being young, he has gotten better. This year was a good year from him. Not amazing, but still good. So he could be an ascending player
which is exciting if you're a Giants fan, right? You see how he does in the preseason, and hopefully you got a starter here.
Number 71. This one's you. This is the three in a row that you did. Last one of the three. Cardinals via Titans. Who are the Cardinals taking at 71?
The Cardinals are taking Jeremiah Trotter Jr.,
Okay.
the linebacker from Clemson. This was somebody I was really high on to start the year, and he kind of fell off, but I feel like most of the linebackers fell off. So yeah, again, he's a middle linebacker. He'll be, I think he was a team captain, and he's very good at reading the run. So I think I've been saying it a lot, but he can contribute right away, and he can play special teams. So I mean, that's also a plus.
All right, 72, JD. We have I'm going to spoil it here, 30 picks out from the end. We have our last one. In our last trade of the mock, the Jets are going to be trading back. They're going to get the 78th overall pick and a 5th round pick at 152. Commanders are moving up here in the 3rd. They're moving up to 72nd, giving a 3rd and a 5th to the New York Jets. Commanders are trading up for Cade Stover, tight end out of Ohio State. This is a kid I love. He's a weapon in the pass game, and this is a team in the Commanders. They need to upgrade at tight end severely. Earlier on, I had them thinking of, Sanders? Sanders is the tight end kid out of Texas that you had drafted. And I had them think about him, but it's like, you know what? He needs a lot of improvement. Stover can come in and be the weapon that the Commanders need in that kind of passing arsenal. So, like, I like what we have them doing. You had them go with McMillan at 67. I have them trade up for Stover. There, we get 2 big weapons for our quarterback, Michael Penix. And also, I didn't even think about that. You took McMillan. That pairs him up with his quarterback from college. Could be a deadly combination for the Commanders. So they trade up, make some moves. Then, JD, at 73, you got the Lions. Who they taking?
The Lions are taking Dominic Honey, the offensive lineman from Kansas.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think the Lions lost some offensive line depth this offseason, and Punny can at very least provide that, as well with potential starter. So yeah, I just think he's a good fit, and he was the best offensive lineman on the board there.
Yeah, next up, the Falcons at 74. I'm going to have them get some wide receiver help here. They boosted up the wide receivers in free agency, but they still are going to need to draft 1 or 2. I got them going with Malachi Corley, the wide receiver out of Western Kentucky, a guy that they can develop. Maybe he can get in a relationship with Kirk Cousins. Hey, good wide receiver for you in the 3rd round here. Next up at 75, the Bears. This is your pick, JD. Who you got them taking in the 3rd?
I got them going Max Melton, the cornerback from Rutgers. Again, best cornerback on the board here. Can provide special teams depth or special teams reps, and has he could play the outside corner as well as the nickel, so he has some positional flexibility there, and he adds to a Bears defense that could use a little bit of secondary help.
76, Patriots via the Broncos. Now, Patriots fans, some of you might not like this, but Stevenson, he's a free agent in the running back pool after this year. I got the Patriots adding a young running back, a guy I like out of Tennessee, Jalen Wright. He's a guy that can be a weapon in the backfield, both receiving and running. He's got some weaknesses, but he's a guy that, yet again, you got Bo Nix. Bo Nix was a guy that used Bucky Irving. Maybe I should have paired him and Bucky up with Bo Nix being a Patriot. Maybe I should have went with that, but I like Jalen Wright a little bit more here. So, you know what? Maybe it's a same thing I did for the Cardinals. You're kind of being proactive to maybe losing one and replacing them early. I like Jalen Wright, and he could be a good weapon for the Patriots out of the backfield. 77th overall, the Raiders are on the clock. JD, this was your pick. Who are the Raiders taking?
The Raiders are taking Isaiah Adams, the offensive tackle from Illinois. By the way,
of my hometown. So
Canadian born.
yeah, Canadian born. Had a former JUCO player. But yeah, I mean, again, so thing with Isaiah Adams here is he's a big body. He's 6'6", 370, I believe. But he can play everything on the offensive line but center. He moved all the way around from Illinois. He was a left tackle, then played right tackle, then played left guard. He needs to work on his hand placement. But he is for his size, he is pretty good at moving for pass blocking, and he's a very good run blocker. And again, I think this past season he was first team all Big Ten for the offensive line. So, and again, he was a team captain. So I just think he's a very good fit with the Raiders there.
I love how many Illinois Fighting Illini are going. I know it's only 2, but ILL, INI, ILL, INI. That brings us to 78. We're almost here to the end, JD. I can sniff it because I can see it on our sheet. Jets via the Commanders via the Seahawks. I got the Jets going with Calvin Bullock, safety out of USC. This is one where, hey, I need a safety. I'm going to take the top safety. Bullock, good talent out of Southern Cal. It's as easy as that sometimes. Falcons at 79, JD. Falcons via the Jaguars. Who are they taking and why?
The Falcons are taking Michael Pratt, the quarterback from Tulane. My thinking here is, I mean,
they
Kirk's
finally take a quarterback.
Yeah, my thinking here is Kirk's not going to play forever. Michael Pratt has upside. At the very least, he's a backup. And yeah, I mean, they need a quarterback, so they need they need a young quarterback, and might as well take a swing on Michael Pratt. He had a fine season at Tulane, so yeah.
80th overall, the Bengals. I got him going with Jonah Ellis, edge rusher out of Utah. This is one where it's just like, hey, beef up that edge room. This is one where you haven't taken one yet. You might not be able to get a quality one of this caliber later on. I'm going to go ahead and take a guy who might be falling according to big boards and stuff. So yeah, Bengals just add more to that defense with a good edge rusher. 81st overall, Seahawks via the Saints. Who are the Sea Chickens going with?
They're going with your boy, Mason Smith.
You mean Mawson Smith?
Yeah, Mawson.
I saw MAN. I'm like, oh, that's Mawson Smith. It's not Mason Smith. It's Mawson Smith.
Yeah. Defensive tackle from LSU. The Seahawks need a defensive line depth. Mason Smith is a good run stuffer. So I thought it was just a pretty clean fit there.
Then the Colts at 82. This is a need that they've had early on. They just haven't touched it till now. I got them going with Kyrie Jackson, cornerback out of Oregon. This is one where they've needed a cornerback. They've kind of gone other places until then, JD. They've gone wide receiver in the first round is where usually I have them go cornerback. They went with offensive tackle. So for me, it's like, okay, let's get that corner. We haven't addressed it yet. Taking Jackson out of Oregon. That brings up the Rams at 83. You're on the clock. Who are the Rams taking?
The Rams are taking Cameron Kitchens, the safety from Miami.
Former first-round talent, now here at the end of the third round.
Exactly. Like, he was somebody I was so high on and had high hopes, but that whole Miami team sucked. And unfortunately, he might have fallen victim to that. I still think he has high upside. He has good length for safety. Good ball skills. His issue is he missed quite a few tackles, so that's something he needs to clean up. But yeah, it's a good upside pick here.
The Steelers at 84. I love how I give myself just the hardest names to say.
Yeah,
the hardest names in the draft. I'm gonna butcher this, so I might just say Kieran, offensive tackle out of Yale, but I'm gonna pronounce it. I think it's Amigadije. That sounds right and close and better than I thought it was going to sound. But they take the offensive tackle out of Yale. This is one where, hey, you got 2 new quarterbacks in the room. Let's take a guy, might be a little bit of a project, but let's take a guy that maybe we can develop into that tackle of the future to protect the 2 guys that we just drafted in Wilson and more so Justin Fields. That brings us to 85. JD, the next 2 picks are yours. 85, Jaguars via the Browns. Who are the Jaguars taking?
They're taking Johnny Wilson, the wide receiver from Florida State University.
They get Elijah Moore. They now draft a wide receiver.
Yeah, Johnny Wilson, I just see him as somebody who's going to be a red zone threat or a deep ball threat. I know whenever the FSU played Florida, he killed us with the deep ball.
Yep.
He's tall. He has the size. He has very good hands. Not the greatest route runner. But if you throw the ball in his vicinity, he'll come down with it. So the Jags are getting a good one here.
And at 86, you also got the Texans via the Eagles. Who is Houston taking?
They're taking Christian Haynes, the guard from UConn.
This guy's definitely fallen in this mock because on big boards, he is way higher than 86.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, I've seen him go as early as, like, the early second. But, yeah, I think he's pretty raw. That's really what it is. I don't think he has a super high ceiling. And he's raw, but at the very least, you're going to get a depth piece here. And I think the Texans, they had a bunch of injuries on the offensive line this year, so adding another offensive lineman definitely doesn't hurt.
Then at 87, I had the Cowboys. This is going to be a controversial pick. I know they have a stacked young running back room, but Tony Pollard leaves some holes. I'm going to take Bucky Irving here. Like, this is one where it's like, I'm not really sold on any of the guys, but maybe Deuce, because his dad works in the organization, and that's one of the big reasons they drafted him. But Bucky Irving, too big to pass up here. And, I kind of look at that room and I go, all right, guys, prove me who should be here, who should not be here, who should get the touches, who shouldn't get the touches. That leaves us at 88, the Chiefs via the Packers. JD, you're on the clock. Who are the Chiefs taking?
They're going Malik Washington, the wide receiver from Virginia.
They definitely need wide receiver help.
Yep. So
that's all it is. Yeah, they need a wide receiver. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, like, basically, right? Like, I mean, your quarterback's Patrick Mahomes. He's gonna make any of these guys look good. So
as long as they don't drop the ball, right, MVS?
Yeah, pretty much. So,
however, the one ball he didn't drop was the most important one of all, the one that won them that Super Bowl against the Niners. 89th overall, the Bucks. I had this one. I'm going with Renardo Green, the cornerback out of Florida State. This one's easy. Cornerback's a need. They haven't gone with it yet. You got to do it in the first 3 rounds. Boom, going with the top corner off the board. And then JD at 90, you got the Cardinals taking a guy who I believe in your first ever big board, JD, he was a top 25 talent going all the way here at 90, but there's a specific reason why.
Yeah, that's Zach Zinter. Unfortunately for him, injuries really, really screwed him. But I remember, I remember watching the video of when he went down and how Michigan, that team, reacted to his injury. Team captain, the team really, kind of went around him. They really admired him. And it's a shame he didn't get to be a part of that national championship run. But if Zach Zinter can come back healthy, this could be an absolute steal for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
He can be one of the best guards in the league. He was one of the best guards in college, really, before him getting hurt. But yeah, this is just unreal pick. He can run block, pass block. He can do cover up the stunts and stuff from the defenders. He's just all around a great player, and if he can come back healthy, it's a steal.
Then at 91, Packers via the Bills. This one's easy to me. I'm just taking some help to to protect Jordan Love. I'm taking Blake Fisher, offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. That's as easy as it is. I mean, haven't really touched offensive tackle in this draft. Need to do it. Taking the offensive tackle Fisher out of Notre Dame. Then at 92, JD, Bucks via the Lions. Who you got him taking?
I got them taking Tommy Eichenberg, the linebacker from Ohio State.
Just beefing up that defense. They've gone corner, they've gone edge, now they've gone linebacker.
Yep.
Tampa Bay just beefing up that defense.
Yeah, because I mean, I think it comes down to their defense being very disappointing this year, right? So they need to add more talent back there, and getting a linebacker like Tommy Eichenberg definitely helps.
Ravens at 93, yet again, same thing as the Packers. We got to protect Lamar Jackson. I got you a wide receiver weapon early. I'm getting you offensive tackle here. Brandon Coleman, TCU. Not a guy that's going to step in day one, but a guy that I think can develop into a good prospect for the Ravens. So it's just as easy as that. 94 49ers. JD, who you got them taking?
I have them taking Xavier Thomas, the offensive tackle from Clemson. They need offensive line depth, and that's all really this is. It's some guy that you want to develop and hope that he can eventually take over. But he can start off as a swing tackle, and I mean, in the third round, I feel like that's all you can really ask for there.
95th overall, the Chiefs, one of their last two picks. They've got the 100th pick later on. I just got them going cornerback, Jerrion Jones out of Florida State, the cornerback. Cornerback's a need for them. They haven't really touched it so far, so I'm going to go ahead, have them beef up the defense with the 95th pick. Then in our last 5 picks, JD, Jaguars at 96. Who are they taking?
The Jags at 96 are taking DJ James, the cornerback from Auburn. He's just mainly a nickel, but I think he's probably one of the best nickels in the draft. So getting him in the third round is very good value, and he helps that Jags defense that was pretty bad last year.
JD 97, the Bengals. I had the pick. They're taking Jermaine Burton, wide receiver, Alabama. Guy who has some questions, isn't a bona fide prospect out of Alabama. But this Bengals team, they're going to have to take a wide receiver at some point. You know him better than most. Would this be a fine pick for the Bengals in the third round, end of the third round?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much he'll play to start, but again, if you can develop him, which is what I think he does need, he needs some developing. It could be a high upside. It'll be a fine pick in the third round. I mean, with who's really left afterwards, I mean, the value there is good. It's I wouldn't say it's BPA, but for wide receiver, I mean, you can't really complain about it.
Steelers at 98, taking this pick, getting it from the Eagles. Who are the Steelers taking, JD? One of our final 3 picks of the mock.
Tyke Smith, the safety from Georgia. Again, kind of like what I said about the like the Bengals, except on the defensive side. This is just really the Steelers kind of going BPA at a position of need here. Tyke Smith, again, he's going to come with that winning mindset playing at Georgia. He's a hard-hitting safety, so that fits what the Steelers are going to be looking for. And at the very least, as a rookie, he can start on special teams.
The Rams at 99. This one's easy. We haven't had them take a... Have we? Let's see. First round. So they took a corner earlier on. They did take Kool-Aid. I always got them doubling down on it. You've got Carson, Kalen Carson, the cornerback out of West Virginia. This is one where it's like, hey, I didn't get the best corner in my opinion in the draft. I'm going to double down. Sometimes we see teams do this. They double down on a pick, a position of need. They do need cornerback help. That's why I got the Rams going with Carson out of Wake Forest at 99. And then JD, Mr. Irrelevant here of our mocks. It's the last round of the third round. He would not be Mr. Irrelevant in the actual draft, but the last pick of night 2 in our mock. Who is it?
It is Eric All, the tight end from Iowa.
Why do you have the Chiefs taking a tight end, JD?
Because there's been rumors of Travis Kelce retiring maybe after this upcoming season.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's a potential replacement here. He's somebody who he's mainly a blocking tight end,
Mm-hmm.
but again, you have Patrick Mahomes throwing him passes, and you have Andy Reid, who's one of the best coaches in the league. So if anybody's going to coach him up, and sorry, Andy's going to be learning from Travis Kelce, so he can learn to be a decent pass catching tight end.
All right. So before we end this, let me get some things lined up here because JD, guess what? Guess what I get to do?
What do you get to do?
I get to do the marathon, my dude.
Marathon?
Yeah, the marathon. You don't know what the marathon is?
No.
Usually at the end of mocks, we do a recap, right?
Oh, yes.
I get to recap all 100 picks for us.
All right, have fun.
JD's like, okay, unless you want to do it with me.
No, I'm okay.
JD's like, nah, I'm good. I'm good, Chief. Gonna do this a couple different ways. So there we go. We'll start with number one. Number one overall, the Bears take Caleb Williams, quarterback. The Vikings move up to take Jalen Daniels at 2. Broncos take Drake May at 3. Cardinals took Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. Joe Alt, the offensive tackle, going 5 to the Chargers. Ola Fashanu going at 6 to the Giants. Roma Dunes going at 7 to the Titans. Dallas Turner going 8 to the Falcons. Malik Neighbors went 9 to the Bears. Brock Bowers went 10 to the Jets. At 11, Terrion Arnold went to the Washington Commanders. Quinyon Mitchell, 12 to the Eagles. 13, J.J. McCarthy, quarterback to the Raiders. 14, Jared Verse to the Saints. 15, J.C. Latham to the Colts. 16, Leah Tulatu, edge rusher to the Seahawks. 17, Byron Murphy II to the Browns. 18, Talise Fuaga to the Bengals. 19, Kool-Aid McKinstry to the Rams. 20, Cooper DeJean to the Steelers. 21, Tyler Guyton. He goes to the Miami Dolphins. 22, Mims from Georgia going to the Patriots, offensive tackle. 23, Troy Fatanu going to the Commanders. 24, JPJ, the interior lineman out of Oregon, going to the Cowboys. 25, Nate Wiggins, the cornerback, going to the Packers. Chop Robinson going to the Bucks at 26. Darius Robinson going 27 to the Cardinals. Brian Thomas Jr. going 28th to the Bills. Jerzan or Johnny Newton going 29 to the Lions. Keon Coleman going number 30 to the Ravens. Then in the end of the first round, we've got Xavier Worthy going to the 49ers at 31. Michael Penix going to the Washington Commanders at 32. Actually, I'm going to do this a different way, so I'm going to pause for a second. Lad McConkey going to the Panthers at 33. Graham Barton going 34 to the Eagles. TJ Tampa going 35 to the Cardinals. Adonai Mitchell going to the Patriots at 36. Chris Jenkins at 37 to the Chargers. Kingsley Suamataia going to the Titans at 38. Ennis Rakestraw Jr. going 39 to the Panthers. At 40, you got Jordan Morgan going to the Chiefs at number 40. Then at 41, you've got Michael Hall Jr. going to the Packers. 42, you got Mike Sainristil, cornerback, going to Houston. 43, Jaden Hicks going to Atlanta. 44, Kamari Lessister going to the Raiders at 44. Patrick Paul at 45 going to the Saints. Ricky Pearsall at 46 going to the Colts. Javon Bullard going to the Giants at 47. Tyler Newman going to the Jags at 48. 49, Trevondre Sweat going to the Bengals. 50, Marshawn Nealon going to the Commanders. Then if I put up the next graphic, we've got Chris Braswell going to the Lions at 51, Cooper Beebe going to the Rams at 52, Bo Nix at 53 to the Patriots, Peyton Wilson going to the Browns at 54, Jatavion Sanders going to the Dolphins at 55, Xavier Legette going to the Cowboys at 56, Blake Corum going to the Bucks at 57, Zach Frazier going to the Packers at 58, Jalen Polk going to Houston at 59, Braden Fisk going to the Bills at 60. Then we've got Roman Wilson at 61 to the Chargers, Braylon Trice 62 to the Ravens, Andrew Phillips, 63 to the Niners, 64, Edgerrin Cooper to the Packers, 65, Jonathan Brooks to the Panthers, 66, Trey Benson to the Cardinals, 67, Jalen McMillan to the Commanders, 68, Adisa Isaac to the Patriots, 69, Tez Walker to the Steelers, 70, we got Spencer Rattler to the Giants. Then we got at 71, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. to the Cardinals, 72, Cade Stover to the Commanders, 73, Dominic Pooney to the Lions, 74, Malachi Corley to the Falcons, 74, Coleman to the Falcons, 75, Max Melton to the Bears, 76, Jalen Wright to the Patriots, 77, Isaiah Adams to the Raiders, 78, Kalen Bullock to the Jets, 79, Michael Pratt to the Falcons. 80, we got Jonah Elise to the Bengals. Then at 81, we've got Mason Smith going to the Seahawks. Kyrie Jackson at 82 going to the Colts. 83, Cameron Kitchens to the Rams. 84, Karan Amigadije to the Steelers. 85, Johnny Wilson to the Jags. 86, Christian Hayes to the Texans. 87, Bucky Irving to the Cowboys. 88, Malik Washington to the Chiefs. 89, Renardo Green to the Bucks. 90, we got Zach Zinter to the Cardinals. 91, Blake Fisher to the Packers. 92, Tommy Eichenberg to the Bucks. 93, Brandon Coleman to the Ravens. 94, Xavier Thomas to the Niners. 95, Jerrion Jones to the Chiefs. 96, DJ James to the Jaguars. 97, Jermaine Burton to the Bengals. 98, Tyke Smith to the Steelers. 99, Kalen Carson to the Rams. And 100, Eric All to the Titans. Do I look out of breath, JD?
Yeah, just a bit.
How would you grade my final run through of all 100 prospects?
I'd give you a solid A.
Okay. Oh, I'm glad you did. That was one where I'm like, you know what I noticed after we started the live show?
What?
I'm like, I didn't line these graphics up to where I could just click.
Oh.
So that's why product on that side. A little bit lacking, like they are not usually, and you don't see the cool like fade transitions. But JD, we did it about almost 3 hours later. We've gone through all 3 rounds.
Yeah.
This was one that JD and I never have done before. I will say I like the idea. Can it be improved upon? Yeah, it can be improved upon. But first time doing it. Might do it next year with some changes, but JD, final thoughts on the mock draft before we end up this draft show. Thank you, obviously, to everyone that we had in the live chat and who was watching live. But what are your final thoughts before we wrap all this up?
It was fun. You know, it definitely gets a little tough, especially in this year's draft when, again, there's not that much depth going down.
That's the thing. In the third round, I will say, I'm like, wow, I feel like we've lost it here in the third round. But like, then there's a part of me that goes, no. That's not because of that's not because we're tired. It's because this draft kind of tapers out at the end of the third.
Like this is a bad draft to have multiple like picks after the second round, really.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think you're like, sure, you're gonna find some stars like luck into them, but just by prospects right now, I mean, this is probably going to be the first time in a long time that I don't watch day 3 of the draft. Like, I'll keep updated.
Usually,
on
I have it on as like background noise. Like, I'll have it on my left screen while I'm like playing WWE on my right.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm also busy this Saturday, but I mean, for the last 4 or 5 years, I've watched all of day 3 just because I love the draft. But this year, it's pretty mid, man. Yeah. But I'm excited.
But that is going to do us. I didn't say this at the earlier part of the show. I should have. Night 1, night 2, we will be live for the draft. You'll see us. JD and I will be live for all 100 picks of the NFL draft, rounds 1, 2, and 3. Night 1 on Thursday will be live. JD, just for you and I, just so I know, did we agree we're going 30 minutes live before or 15 minutes live?
15 before.
We will be 15 minutes live before the draft. So, like, what? I think it starts at 7 Eastern or 8 Eastern?
8 Eastern, I
8
believe.
Eastern, so we'll be live about 7:45 Eastern, 6:45 Central Time. And then night 2, same thing. We'll be live 15 minutes before. Will probably be how I'll do it is we'll be live at the top of the hour, or at the half part of the hour. Give that 15-minute window to like for people to come in, or like 10-minute window. Then I'll start our timer 3 minutes before. Boom. We'll go right into our draft coverage. But thank you everyone who watched. Remember, join the Discord down below if you want to support us. Patreon's down there. Sign up for BETUS if you haven't already. Helps out the channel. Our sponsor for the live show today. Hit that sub button if you haven't already so you can keep track of all of our draft content, especially for next year. Got some big news coming up for next football season as well. Hit that like button if you're watching this live. Thank you for commenting during the show in the live chat. If you're watching this after, let us know what you think down below in the comment section. Thank you to everyone who watched before, while it was live, after it was live, before the draft, after the draft, whenever you're watching this. Thank you. And as always, for JD and myself, have a good day, everybody.
See ya.